Good morning, my Teaserking family. How's everybody today? Eating my lunch. Where's my water? Damn. Sorry. Just done with swim, having my lunch. Forgot my water. Ginger and cinnamon inside. What a drink I created. I should sell it for $2.99 for 16 ounces and put all the pop companies out of business. So, Mark McGuire finally is going to tell you the news you want to hear about when's gold going up. So I watched his show. I got to watch it again, but we'll go through a few key parts. I need a haircut. Anyway, we'll talk NFL. So I had to talk with somebody last night near the end of the show. I need to take the Giants in 17 in a 7-point teaser, which I so eloquently talked him out of, but with explanation. It wasn't just take the Niners, it was because I had the under in the game, under 50. I called the score. My score was 30-10. It was 30-12. I had it nailed. Again, how are the Giants going to score? So if we really break the game down, you get this great defense in 49ers. How's the Giants going to score? But the Niners have this great offense also. Purdy threw for 300 yards, which I wasn't surprised because fucking Joshua Dobbs threw for 300 yards against them. This is why it's hard to bet two bad teams under, because their defenses suck. However, this is when you take advantage. So when you play an A team like the Niners, then you can come on and say, well, they're going to kill them. But, had the spread been 7, it's a lock, right? There's no way the Niners are going to lose. 10's a little tough, but they got that job done. So this is why you must rank teams so you know what you're dealing with. This is the art of it. Getting there is a little bit confusing because of who they play. In other words, so Green Bay beats the Bears. Are they really this good offensive team? We don't know. Then they go to Atlanta, play a 25-24 game. Now we're like, oh, okay. Atlanta's not the greatest defense, but they're at least a regular team, not like the Bears who just are horrible. So now we start finding out. Well, what we learn is when the Giants beat Arizona 31-28 with Joshua Dobbs as quarterback, there was a problem with their defense. So we picked the score 30-10, which is an art. And it was 30-12, 42. I got 44 under is 50. So I'm pretty sure at the end, even if the touchdown, these stupid 2-point conversions really kill you. But I got it done. Now, yeah, Frisco -4 I liked. I just thought the Giants wouldn't score. And in the NFL, they're not trying to win by a lot. It's not college. So I felt okay. Anyway, I got a winner, so that's all that matters. So let's go through. We got to go through the injuries. Now, from what I hear is, let's see what the gold price is, as long as I'm down here. Gold price is $19.28, $23.56 for silver. Again, it's all fixed. It doesn't matter. All right, let's look at the line. We'll go through college and pro lines. Let's just go through NFL right now. So NFL, we got Minnesota 1.5, 53.5. So that's been moving where San Diego's favored, then Minnie's favored. So now Minnie's favored, which is good because we like San Diego as the dog anytime we can get them, especially against a team like Minnesota. Cleveland 3.5, 39.5. And their guy is out. Whatchamacallit? Chubb's out. Henry's playing. And what should be a good defensive struggle because of Tennessee with is a very good defensive team. That. Love that. Okay. So I posted a pro locks. I have 3 locks going now, and all teams are different. And I've been very careful this week because I don't repeat stupidity. I'm the professor. I don't make stupid things too often. Last week I was pretty pissed at the Denver game, with the Giant game. Like, what the fuck? And now I'm realizing how bad the coaches are, how bad the defenses are, and everything else. So let's see. So we got Cleveland 3.5, 39.5, no Chubb. We got Jacksonville 8.5, 44.5, no change. We got New England 2.5, 36.5. And my biggest question is, why is New England favored in the game? See, I don't get why everybody's discounting Zach Wilson. He's not a bad quarterback, and keep in mind he beat Buffalo. So he's being way undervalued, and you've got to value their defense. And what does New England got? They don't have a defense, and they got Mac Jones. I don't know. I don't get it. It wasn't Belichick. It was Brady. I hate to break it to you guys. Green Bay 1.5, 42.5. Nothing's really moving. It'll probably move Sunday morning when the sharps start betting. Give me a break. Miami 6.5, 47.5. Buffalo 6.5, 43.5. Detroit 3 and 46.5. Baltimore 8.5, 44.5. To Indy. Seattle 5.5, 42. Down from 6.5. So what's happened here is Young's out, and they're going to go with Andy Dalton. Now, when I heard that news, I'm like, why isn't Andy Dalton the starter? Why is he the backup? Can Bryce Young possibly be ready to go after, playing college ball at Alabama? You think he's ready to go? He needs at least 2 years of learning because they don't teach anything there. So you throw him in the mix. So now he's got a hurt shoulder, and you got Andy Dalton on the bench. So who's the Carolina? I don't know if it's this. Are the owners all balking in? Are the coaches all that bad? If I got Andy Dalton and I have to draft Bryce Young, Andy Dalton is the starter until, for the whole year, he's the starter. He's the better quarterback by a mile. What are you doing? Hey, Eric, I'll be right back. Grab a drink. Bon appetit. 49ers are elite. Oh, I told you that. Okay, Eric. Well, I'll go through the grades right after I go through this. So, let's see. All right. Where was I? All right. So Ravens 8.5, Seahawks 5. Okay, we're talking Seahawks. So the Panthers are now starting Andy Dalton. They're a much better team with Andy Dalton. So the line goes from 6.5 to 5.5. Now Carolina's not a W team. They're a lot better than that. I think they'll score more. They have a chance to win with Andy Dalton that they didn't have with Bryce Young because Seattle's defense sucks. Now the over-under is 42. I got to believe this is an over game with Dalton because Seattle they'll put up in the 30s. So now with Dalton, you'll probably get in the 20s. Anyway, just unbelievable. Dallas, 12.5, 42.5. And KC, 12.5, 48.5. And Pittsburgh, 2.5, 43. And now this is Monday night. I understand why there's 2 Monday night games. One on ABC and one on ESPN, who is ABC. What the fuck? Philadelphia, 4.5, 46. Now is Monday night. And Cincinnati and the Rams, 3 and 43.5. So the first question from an economic standpoint, why would you possibly want to compete with yourself? The reason you have Monday Night Football is so you're the only one. Now you're competing with yourself. What is wrong with these idiots at Disney? First, they're all woke. Now they want to compete with themselves. And why? Why do we need 2 Monday night games? One at 7 and one at 8. What is the point of that? We can't possibly watch them both, nor do we want to. I don't know that I want to watch either of them. If Joe Burrow's not playing, I don't want to watch the Ram game. Philly and Tampa, I don't want to watch Baker Mayfield. So the league is definitely void of well, it's got Mahomes, but if Burrow's hurt, I ain't watching C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young and these idiots. All right, so let's go through the teams. So we can do it this way. So the 8 teams, as I see it, the Niners yesterday, Buffalo, pretty much, Dallas for sure. Those are your 3 A teams. Those are, and Buffalo. I think it's more Dallas and Frisco up here, and then it's Philadelphia, Kansas City over here. I think there are knots below because KC's defense isn't well. And I'll tell you at this point, their offense isn't playing well. For them to only put up 17 on Jacksonville's embarrassment and to only put up 20 on the Lions, Seattle throws up a 37. Okay, that was week 1. What happened in week 2 off of a loss? That's your best effort. Okay, Kelsey hurt his knee. Maybe he didn't practice. Okay, no excuse this week. You're playing the fucking Bears. If you don't put up a 40 on the Bears, there's something wrong with Kansas City. So let's look at – so then we look at the B teams, Atlanta, Baltimore, and Tampa Bay and the Rams are the B teams statistically. Philadelphia is not a B team. They're an over team because their defense is not strong right now. Their defense is giving up 26, 27 points a game. So then we look at the unders, Tennessee, Cleveland, New Orleans, New England and the Jets, Jacksonville, who's normally an over. Kansas City is an under team because they're not scoring. And so that's really the problem, right? Kansas City is not. So the A team's got strong offense, strong defense. Kansas City does not have the strong offense right now. So they're an under team. The over teams are San Diego, as we know, Minnesota. That should be a 100-point game. Detroit, they have no defense. Indy, I don't know how they're scoring with Richardson. Green Bay, okay, that makes sense. Denver and Miami, that makes sense. Well, Miami anyway. Denver, okay, they're finally, Sean Payton's bringing that in. Washington, surprisingly, with Thurston Howell III. Seattle, that makes sense. They don't have a defense. And Philadelphia is an over team. So Philly's defense is not there, and Kansas City's offense is not there yet. Doesn't mean it won't be there. It's as snapshot as of week 2 going into how do we predict week 3. As we get into it, by week 5, then KC should be an A. Philly should be an A. They should get it going. Philly's got new coordinators, offense and defense, so that's their problem. And this is the problem when you don't play preseason. Right? You need that time together to gel. These guys, especially with 3 preseason games, should be playing the whole half of each game to get the chemistry down with the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator, and the rest of the line and the receivers, get their timing down with the starting quarterback. This bullshit, if we don't want to get hurt, go play golf. Go play tennis. Don't want to get hurt. All right. Now it leads us to the weak teams. Houston's a W. Carolina's a W. Obviously, their quarterbacks suck. Pittsburgh's a W. Is surprising, but they don't have a quarterback. And Cincinnati's a W because of Burrow with the calf. He's questionable with the calf injury. He's not there yet. That's why they're struggling. But at this, based on the stats, they're a W. Now, Burrow starts slow. Okay. We did it last year. We'll keep going. And your Z teams are the Giants, Chicago, Oakland. Those are your 3 Z teams based on stats. Anybody surprising there? Like Oakland and, well, not the Giants, but Chicago and Oakland. So the Pitt-Oakland game, which is always the 2 best teams, Franco Harris against Fred Blitnikoff, are now like 2 of the worst teams in the league. They're a W and a Z. Pittsburgh's a W, partly because they had to play the Niners. And then last week they did beat Cleveland, but they didn't score anything against the Niners. So when you average it out, now this should help them. Oakland's defense sucks. Oakland doesn't have the excuse. They played Buffalo, not a team like the Niners or Dallas. So they have a built, they don't have an excuse. Pitt, no, hey, we played the Niners. Of course we're not going to score. I thought the Giants getting 12 was a big they had a great game. They got 12 points. So you're breaking down. So automatically you cannot play a Z team as a favorite. So the first automatic play is Pittsburgh, because how can Oakland be a 3-point favorite? Now Pitt's weak, but they're not that weak. They're not like a Houston or a Carolina with the bad quarterbacks, although Pickett's not very good either. I'm surprised they didn't. Maybe if Pitt doesn't grab a quarterback in this draft, they got problems. Again, you've got Pickett, and I think what it is he's cheap because he's on the rookie contract. So they can build the rest of their team. But I'd be shocked if they didn't draft, a Van Dyke or a Hartman or a Rising or the Penix or Bo Nix. They just grab one of about 20 quarterbacks coming out. All right, so first we translate the teams into what they are, because we don't want to bet a Z team. That's why I talked somebody off the Giants. You cannot bet against the A team. You cannot bet against Dallas this week. You've got to be out of your mind. Go pick somebody else. But then you got, KC's 12.5, and they're an under team. Maybe I take the 18 and the Bears. You can't bet the Z team. So what you're looking for is a good team getting points. So the first one that pops up, which is your free play, is San Diego, Minnesota. The game's even. I've got San Diego, a strong over team. Minnesota doesn't have a defense. San Diego should light them up. Mini should score on San Diego, but they do have a better defense. The better team's the dog. Anytime San Diego's a dog. So we have a really good team, San Diego, I got 8 points with it. We got a real good team getting 8 points who should win the game. That's what you want. That's what you want to bet on, not take the Giants against a team like the Niners. I mean, they barely beat Arizona. And now you're going to see what a real team does to Arizona with Dallas. I got 38-0. I was going to say I'll be surprised if Arizona gets the nothing, but I mean, that's an automatic. Like if I had 7, I'd be surprised if they got the 7. I have quite the smorgasbord going on here. Banana, avocado. But I get hungry after swimming. So, with that said, now we study the board. So now, step A, we learn the teams. We learn the teams based on the numbers of the real games, not the preseason. But then we got to microscope it in to find out who did they play. So a team that beats the Niners or the Cowboys gets like a double whammy, right? Because you not only won, you beat an A team. I don't see that happening. So then we get to, all right, we're looking for strong dogs and weak favorites. So Oakland's a weak favorite because they're a Z team. According to this, so they score probably about 50 game. They give up, looks like 25 to 30. Well, I mean, a lot of it came because Buffalo beat them 38-10. That skews their numbers. But here you go against Buffalo and you get killed. How good of a team are you if you go to Buffalo and get killed? How good of a team then is the Jets who beat Buffalo without Aaron Rodgers? So you can see how good Buffalo is, and the Jets beat them. So that gets you to the Jet-New England game going, well, fuck, why is New England favored? The Jets beat Buffalo and played Dallas pretty good. You cannot knock Zach Wilson. I mean, anybody that plays Dallas is going to look bad, and the team's not going to score a lot. I think the fact they got 10 points and he threw that 75-yard pass, I think he looked great. It's fucking Dallas, right? Micah Parsons, you're not scoring a lot on him. So that one you say, what the fuck is New England favored for? Who have they beaten? They're an under team. They don't score a lot. They're an E defense. They give up in the mid-20s. Philly got 25 on them. Miami got 27 on them. Zach Wilson, okay, put up 16 on Buffalo. We won't count the punt return, obviously. They got 3 picks on Josh Allen. What is Matt Jones going to do, right? The better team is the dog at home here. Just like they beat Buffalo, the fact they lost to Dallas doesn't make them bad and doesn't make Zach Wilson bad. In fact, what has Mac Jones done that's any good? So I think you've got the wrong team as the dog here, especially a home dog. There's no way in hell New England goes in there and beats them by 14. Not going to happen. So you got 8.5 in the Jets. That's a good bet. Now, again, we have to bet the game today. Well, we have to bet the game now, not after the game. We are not Bernie Madoff. We cannot bet the games after they're over and then go 100% and say, I never pick a loser on Bernie Madoff. We can't do that. Bernie Madoff can, and some of these handicappers can, but not us. Hey, Todd. I keep getting these calls for like Medicare, and I don't need it. I fast. I don't need a doctor. Thank you very much. Well, they're very good. They're a terrible home favorite. They're a very good dog at home or on the road. I know we always take them against Kansas City because there's the dog there, and they play Kansas City very well. They get up for that game because they get like, we're better than you, and Kansas City, has a hard time with Boza and Khalil Mack and the safety. So it's not a good matchup for Kansas City. So we do take them as a dog when we can. But they've been a great road dog for years. Herbert's fine, even with the different coach. Herbert's been there 5 years, and he's always been a good dog. So, yeah. I mean, that's the free play, San Diego. And then the other free play is take the Denver Miami over. That's your free teaser, however you want to do it. But that's what we're looking for. So you really have to have a basis. In other words, you can't just bet the Giants yesterday. What was your basis? Any? They're a terrible team and they're going to beat the best team in the league. Oh, that's a great way to bet. Oh, wait, no, it was the Sharps. You're going against the Sharps. Yeah, the Sharps had their heads up their ass yesterday, didn't they? If they're all betting on the Giants. So your reason cannot be because the Sharps or because it's 10 points, or your reason's got to be because they're very good. They're a very good team. Or in the Jet case, they have a very good defense. They're a better team than New England. I don't mind that. I don't mind Zach Wilson. And I don't know why New England's favored on the road. That's why you bet the Jets. That's why we take San Diego. They're a very good dog. Okay. So when you go down, you first looked at the team. Now let's go to Detroit, Atlanta. Detroit's an over team. They score, but they give up. They have no defense. Same as last year. And Atlanta's beat Green Bay, who's a pretty good team. First week, I think they beat Carolina. So you really can't count that. And then the second week, they did beat a real team in Green Bay. Looked pretty good. The Riddler's fine as the quarterback. I don't have a problem with him. He's handing the ball off to the receivers. They've got a very good offense. I'm not sure about their defense, but it's good enough. So I think the Lions, I don't think they're going to stop the Lions from scoring, but I don't think the Lions can stop Atlanta. So I figured they played Green Bay to a 49, 25-24. Okay, it sounds about the same here. Maybe Detroit scores a little bit more. And the over-under is 46. All I got to do is go over 40. How does this game not go over 40? I mean, if you think about the dynamics, neither team's really got a great defense. Atlanta's a B team because they played Carolina the first week. Okay, check. Now, how did they do against a decent team, Green Bay? We're still searching how good is Love. But okay, then it was more like, okay, this is Atlanta 25-24. They can score on Green Bay, who's got a better defense than Detroit. Okay. So that gives us a better thing. So is Atlanta probably going to be an over team? Because once the Carolina stuff gets blended in, where you really get fucked is the AFC South. You got Jacksonville playing Houston and Indy, and Indy's playing Houston, and they're all playing each other. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. So you don't have a clue about anybody in there. So I look at it. I got Indy as an over. Okay. I got Houston as a W with no defense. So I know Houston's got no defense. Indy's got no defense. Jacksonville, I'm totally lost. They're an under team. But again, they beat Indy 31-21 and played a 17-9 game with Kansas City, which really confuses the shit out of me. How did that happen? How did they keep KC to 17? Kelsey played. Mahomes played. It's like, well, what happened there? So with that said, that you kind of got to ignore. You just realize we have no idea. So then you just keep going down the list. Indy, Baltimore is a B team. We know they have a decent defense. We know they don't have a quarterback, a decent offense. They played Houston the first week and only got 25 on them. Last week they beat Cincinnati with 27-24. So we don't know what they are. Indy scares me. I don't know if Richardson's questionable. but I'd rather have Minshew in there. I don't have Young for Carolina. I got Andy Dalton, who's 10 times better in there. So now I'm not betting, where I would have bet Seattle. Now I got to be careful. And wait a minute, they got a real quarterback, hands off, and then Indy, and then Houston's got Stroud, but they're the worst of the three. Well, Carolina is a W, and so is Houston, which means the funny part is they really don't have a defense, and they don't have an offense. So Stroud throws for a lot of points, but he doesn't throw for touchdowns, and Young's terrible. Dalton will be a lot better. You won't get the turnovers. Hey, Todd. Richardson's out too. Thank you very much. Okay, Minshew. So now you've got these two better quarterbacks instead of these other guys. They both got injured. They both had no business playing for at least 8 to 10 weeks. What are you playing them for? Did Mahomes see the field the first year? No. What did Montana do? I don't think he saw the field the first year. I think Steve DeBerg was the quarterback. Montana sat on the bench learning Bill Walsh's plays. Learning this, you got to learn it. You go to a new job, they're not giving you a lot of hard work the first 6 months. I started Mercedes, and I was a seasoned senior financial analyst. And my boss gave me 90 days to just learn. Don't do anything, just learn for 90 days. And I caught on after a month. And it was the same thing in Harley. I caught on after 2 weeks. But I'm seasoned at it. All right. I've done it for 20 years, so it's not a big deal. But so now it's a whole different game. Baltimore and Indy with Minshew. Carolina and Seattle with Dalton. It's a much different game. You got much better quarterbacks. Not a lot of playing time. This is why you play them in preseason. Oh, no, we can't get anybody hurt. So we're going to lose 5 games because the team hasn't played together. I mean, what kind of shit is that? Terrible coaching. Or terrible if the GM's forcing it, whoever knows. Who's doing what? All I know is Kansas City played Mahomes in the preseason. And he's still bad. Cincinnati did not play Joe Burrow, but he got hurt. I think they would have played him because they come out with really slow starts. Anyway, so we've ranked the teams. Now we're looking for what do we want to bet on? What's a good bet? What makes sense? So we found San Diego, Minnesota, a live dog, and a good over. New England and the Jets. The Jets are a live dog here. The better team at home getting points. Makes sense. Denver, Miami, both over teams. Both can score. Sean Payton's got Russell Wilson moving. Miami, Tag Tagliabue, he's got like almost 500 yards a game. Okay. Neither team has a defense. Look at the over-under. It's 47. That's a joke. So over 41 with any Miami game always goes over 40. They went 47 with New England last week. Denver doesn't have a defense because they played Washington, and Washington scored 35 on them. So you're watching these other games, and what I take out of them, which is different than anybody else, is Denver plays Washington 35-33, and I go, where's the defense? You guys might look at it differently. I'm going, where's the defense? There's no fucking defense on the field. When I look at Dallas against the Jets and I see them 30-10, and I know the Jets held them to 3 field goals. I bet Arizona doesn't do that tonight or Sunday. So I'm noticing the Jets defense, and I see them against Buffalo. Okay, that's week 1, but week 2 against Dallas, 30-10. They held them to 30, and there was some turnovers. So you're watching that. Love the coach of the Jets, which is the key. That's the starting point. And then the defense, is going to show up. They did beat Buffalo. Let's not forget that. So that's what you're looking for. Atlanta, Detroit, probably high scoring. Neither team's really got a great defense. They both have good offenses. New Orleans and Green Bay. What do you do with that? New Orleans, probably more of a defensive team, or at least we think. Derek Carr, questionable how good he is. Against Love, questionable how good he is, but he looked good against Atlanta. Carr looked okay. Last week, who did they beat? Tampa, I think, or no? New Orleans beat Carolina, so that really doesn't count. But, so it's Green Bay favored by 1.5, 42.5. Seems like a very low total for Green Bay and New Orleans. I mean, Green Bay, they played a 49 with Atlanta. I would expect them to score in the mid-20s, and I don't think they're going to shut out New Orleans. They don't have that kind of defense. So, again, this is how you invent the scores, right? And I'll go through those in a minute. Then we get down to Houston, Jacksonville, and we go, I have no fucking idea. Jacksonville put up 31 on Indy and 9 on Kansas City. So where's their offense? Houston stinks. They're a W. But Jacksonville's an under team. You got 8.5. Do you trust? I don't trust Trevor Lawrence. I don't trust Jacksonville. They're not a solid. You want an A team or a B team to play. This is an under team. And the problem with under teams is they don't score a lot. That's why they're an under team. And I don't trust Trevor Lawrence. They lost this game last year to Houston. Now, not with C.J. Stroud, but with Davis Mills, so it's even worse. So this is a game you just say, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't trust Jacksonville. I can't play Houston. So you just walk away from it. I don't see over or under. I don't have a clue. Jacksonville is an under team. Houston's got an over defense. They just played Indy to a 50-point game. So I have no idea. And so when there's more risk, it's not worth it because I don't get more reward. That's the key. I get the same reward betting San Diego as a dog as I do betting this Jacksonville-Houston game. But I got more confidence in San Diego. If I lose with them, I don't mind losing with them getting 8 points. Okay, that's fine. But if I lose with Jacksonville, I'm going to, throw up. So why did I bet it? Buffalo, Washington, you got an A team in Buffalo. You got an over team in Washington. I'm not sure Buffalo's an A team, but okay, they lost to the Jets, and then they killed Oakland, who doesn't have much offense. Washington, I would have thought, my first thought was Buffalo will beat them. But then watching the Washington-Denver highlights, I say, well, Washington put up 35 on Denver. They have a decent defense. It's at home. Buffalo is not as good on the road. You know what? I probably like the game more over than Buffalo. Still like Buffalo. I think they're the better team, but Washington, the way they scored on Denver, they should score on Buffalo, who doesn't have the greatest defense. Again, they're an A based on the stats. Even though they gave up 22, I think they gave up 10 to Oakland. So because it's only 2 games, it's 16. Well, that's an A team if you give up 16 points. Maybe I have to adjust it the first few weeks. I kind of see the stats, but then this is the art form of going and saying, yeah, I know the stats say Buffalo is an A team, but are they really an A team? Well, they were against Oakland, but against the Jets, and they might have been an A team. I think the Jets were an A team. Unfortunately, Rodgers got hurt. So you really look at it and you go, I think they're a good team. I don't think they're an A team at this point. But that makes me like the Jets more because if I think they're an A team and the Jets beat them, what are the Jets? So, again, I keep arguing that the Jets are a very good team because of their defense. Carolina, Seattle. I love Seattle until Andy Dalton's the starter. With Andy Dalton the starter, I have no fucking idea now. Now, he's good. I like Andy Dalton. But he's been around. He hasn't played with Carolina. He was on New Orleans the last couple of years. He was on Cincinnati, we know. So he's a good quarterback. He probably won't turn it over. Seattle doesn't really have a defense. Now this turns into, do I want to bet it over? Because with Dalton, they're probably not a W team because that means they can't score. And they have a pretty decent defense. So now they'll score more. So my number was 27-10 with Young, but now with Dalton, it's maybe 27-20. So now it's a whole different animal. I think 42 is way too low with Dalton playing. But how good is Dalton going to be? He's got to get used to the receivers and the timing. You got to realize you got to get the timing down. So you got to get the plays down, which he probably has, but you got to get the timing down. Why he's not the regular starter, I think the coach should be fired. If I got this guy on my bench and I'm starting Bryce Young, he's not playing Tennessee and Old Mississippi and Mississippi State and Arkansas State, New Mexico. He's playing NFL teams. He doesn't show up against Georgia. He doesn't show up against LSU. The fuck? He barely showed up against Texas last year. Excuse me. So you got a much better quarterback here. So we'll watch this one because there's a little, but I think they score more. Chicago KC, we got a Z team playing what should be the A team, Super Bowl team, Mahomes. And they're an under. If you can believe that Mahomes is an under. He's never been an under as long as I've been doing this. So the Bears, we know, have no defense. If they don't, my score in this game is 31-17, the Kansas City. He doesn't put up 31 on this defense. And keep in mind, Jordan Love of the Packers put up like 35 on him. Oh, granted, a lot was just throwing a 5-yard pass to Adam Jones, and he ran for 2 long touchdowns. But I will be shocked if they don't put up 31 here. There's something seriously wrong with KC. So because you never know, Fields is terrible, and they're the worst team in the league. Fields has been there 2 years, right? All right, Young and Richardson, we know those guys stink, but they just came. But Fields has been there 2 years, and he's still clueless, right? So they're a Z team, so it means they don't score, and they have no defense. So you can't bet them. Even though the line's 12.5, I still think KC laying 6.5. The problem is just they're not scoring. But their defense looks a lot better, holding Jacksonville to 9, and the Lions really to 14. They scored 7 on a pick 6. Kelsey's back. They've had a full week to practice. I think KC, and with the loss, has to win. I think they kill him. I don't think there's anything Chicago can do. They don't have a defense. What are they going to blitz them? Yeah, good luck blitzing Mahomes. What is that going to do for you? Their only hope is that as Tony, he throws to Tony 20 times and he drops it 20 times. That's the only hope the Bears have. This should be I think KC gets it all back here. This is the perfect team to do it against, a team with no defense. That's why defense is critical. If KC's playing Dallas, I'm taking Dallas because they're going to shut down Mahomes. But you got him against the Bears. They can't stop him. Now he's going to light it up. I look for KC to light him up. Dallas and Arizona. Arizona's really a Z team, but they put up all these points on the Giants. So therefore, their stats come out as an E team with an over defense. So they're kind of an over team because of the averages. They had a big game last week against the Giants. They scored 28, but they gave up 31 to the Giants. And against the real team, the Giants scored 12. How they scored 28 on the Giants is beyond me. That's how bad the Giants are. That's why I pulled my hair out yet last week, losing those under games because the defenses were coached by like high school coaches. So keeping that in mind, and I look and I throw out the stats and I go, well, I know Arizona has no defense. Dallas, we know, is an A team. I don't think Arizona can score. I think Joshua Dobbs is going to get blitzed and sacked because that's what Dallas did. They held the Jets to 10, and that's about right. And again, I just think this will be, I think it's all Dallas. 12.5, I think it's a joke. Should be 20. And just because Dobbs looked good against the Giants, you're assuming he's going to look good. And this is the problem people have. They see the game last week as the barometer. Well, he got 28 on the Giants. This ain't the Giants defense. This is Dallas. Nobody scores on Dallas. So Micah Parsons, they're being more aggressive. I don't think Arizona scores. You can either go Dallas down to 6.5, or you can go under 40. I can't believe this is 43, but this is where Vegas fucks up. They look at the averages. So they're taking the Giant game into effect, and I'm throwing it out saying Dobbs against Dallas, he ain't going to score. Vegas is just looking at averages. That's why I beat them most of the time. They're looking at averages. They're not critically thinking about who's playing who here. And since they're not critically thinking about it, they make a 43 in a game that should be 32. Because I don't know where Arizona's not going to score. Dallas will probably win 35-0 or 38-0. And so it's Dallas. Again, they should be a 20-point favorite, and this over-under should be 32-33. So take your pick. Pitt and Oakland, W against the Z. Oakland's favored. Pickett against Garoppolo, both stink. Again, I don't understand. See, now they get Garoppolo, and now they're going to, he's my starter. And then here comes Hartman, and here comes Van Dyke, and you keep Garoppolo? They won't have a chance. Now, so what do the Bears do, right? Houston and Indy are stuck with their new quarterbacks. The Bears lose every game. They got Fields, and they can get Caleb Williams. Are you really going to keep Fields when you could have Caleb Williams? I mean, if they do that, they might as well fire the GM. He doesn't know what he's doing. They could have done that this year, but there was really nobody to get. But if he passes on Caleb Williams, Penix, Hartman, Van Dyke, hopefully Rising will be back by then. He's out of his fucking mind. And it's the same thing with Houston and Indy and Carolina. They just got a new quarterback. What are they going to do? What's Carolina do? Get rid of Bryce Young when they could have Caleb Williams? Absolutely, they should, but they won't. Look how long Cleveland had Mayfield for. Now he goes from team to team to team. And that whole class, they all sucked. Josh Allen's the best, but he's not very good. I know you guys will piss all over me if you're saying that, but look at the playoff game. See, when I say that, I'm like, I want to bet on him. Is he good to bet on? Cincinnati killed them 26-10 or 27-10. I bet on Burrow. I bet on Burrow against Mahomes. That's why I say what I say. Lamar kills you because Lamar doesn't use his receivers and his running backs, and he can't hit the broadside of a barn. That's why I don't like Lamar. Are you going to bet on Lamar? Lamar this week's got Indy. You're laying 8.5. You're going to bet on Lamar? And now it's Minshew. You're going to bet on Lamar for that? Good luck. I don't touch Lamar. Now, they did beat Cincinnati, but so you can see the difference. So this would be interesting if Chicago keeps Fields and passes on Caleb Williams and Penix and Hartman and these guys. I mean, it's just how stupid are these guys? But again, if you have the fifth pick like the Lions will, Indy, Houston, Carolina, and Chicago won't draft them, all of a sudden the fifth pick can get Caleb Williams or Penix or whatever. I'd still take Hartman. I would pass on that and take Hartman. All right. So Pitt and Oakland, again, I don't know how Oakland's favored here. They're the Z team, partly because they played Buffalo and got killed. But is this a team that goes and gets killed? Why would they be favored? Pittsburgh at least beat Cleveland. They got 2 defensive touchdowns, and I would think they would do the same here. Both teams are over defensively, but Pitt played to the Niners the first week, and the Niners killed them, and Oakland had Buffalo. So against the good team, they suck. So do you have the offense with Pickett and Garoppolo to really hurt these bad defenses? And I don't think so. So I like the Steelers only because I like the dog in the game. And it was Pittsburgh started as a 1. So I liked Oakland. Now Oakland's favorite. So I like Pittsburgh. Give me more than 7. Neither team can score. I got Pitt winning 17-13. Philly and Tampa, I'm scratching my head. Philly is not the same Philly at this point. Their defense was amazing with all the Georgia players on it. Beats New England 25-20. And last week against Minnie was 34-28. So they are scoring. But what they did to Minnie doesn't have the defense, which is why I like San Diego this week. Philly, I want to bet the better defensive team, which then I struggle here because that's Tampa, not Philadelphia. Unbelievable. Tampa's really the better team. They're at home. They're the dog getting 4.5. Why do you think the spread's only 4.5? How good is Tampa with Mayfield? I don't know. I got to see the game to see or take a better look at the highlights. I mean, they beat the Bears, which doesn't mean anything. And then week 1, who did they beat week 1? Tampa beat they won at Minnie 2017. So that's impressive. But without preseason, week 1's kind of hard to really fathom. Last week they beat Tampa Bay beats the Bears 27-17. They only scored 27 on the Bears is pretty embarrassing. So I don't think I think Philly wins a tight one. Over under 46. I don't know what to do with it because if Philly starts blitzing Mayfield, they're not going to score. And Philly's going to score on Tampa. They'll score on anybody. So I kind of think Philly wins, and I kind of think probably an over. I mean, over 46, over 40. The way this league's going, and as bad as the defensive coordinators are, they played a 45 with New England, Philly, and then last week a 65 with the Vikings. Okay, the Vikings have a real offense. They got Jefferson, but what does Tampa got? So this is a very tough game. I think the only way you can play it's Philadelphia. I don't think Tampa can win it. I don't think it matters that where the game's at. Philly is a very strong road favorite. So here's where you go to the trend and you go, all right, let's look at the trends for Philly, which is really hard to do because you've only had Hurts for, 2 years, I think. So I go back last year and the year before on most of these now. And, you don't really get trends, but where you get it. So Philly is a very strong road favorite the last 2 years. Okay. Super Bowl team. Okay. They should win. In the last game, LA and Cincinnati. Cincinnati's got definitely serious issues. Joe Burrow is still questionable with the calf. Maybe he plays. There's something else going on in his calf because it ain't a pulled calf. Pulled calf is a week, 2 weeks. You're walking on it, you're fine. He's still troubled by it. It's been 6-7 weeks now. He might have pulled a tendon or tore a tendon, something, but he says, fuck it, I'm playing, but he's injured. So we've got to be real careful with Cincinnati right now until he has that game. Cincinnati is the trend. They've covered they're probably about 80% the last year and a half with Burrow. They got Cincinnati 3-43. So the Rams are a B team, and they played Frisco fairly well, 30-23. They got 23 on Frisco. It was huge. Since he lost to Baltimore, 27-24, so they played a little more normal. Since he's backs against the wall, they're down 0-2. They must win. The Rams lost, so they need to win too. They played very well against Seattle. So I think this is going to be a very close game. I don't I don't see Cincy blowing out the Rams. It's also revenge for the Super Bowl. I think it's a close game. I think you take the dog here. If we know Burrow is healthy, maybe we go over because Burrow will light up the Rams, Stafford will light up Cincy, and it'll be more of a high-scoring game. And it's a low number. It's 43. So all you got to do is go over 37. But the key is how healthy is Burrow? And he's listed as questionable this week. So, they played a 51 with Baltimore. Okay. And they have a very, very good defense, about the same as the Rams. So we'll have to see. So let's go through the scores. I got Tennessee 17-13 over Cleveland, low-scoring game. San Diego 27-24, high-scoring game. Atlanta 31-30, the dog in a high score. Baltimore 27-14. Although now with Minshew, it's probably a little bit higher scoring than that. Although Richardson's been scoring running the ball, not throwing. He can't throw, but amazingly enough, when he scored twice on Indy around Houston last week. At the 20-yard line, goes back to pass and then just runs around and scores a touchdown twice. It was 14-0 on two of these 20-yard runs. You're like, what is the defensive coordinator on Houston doing? So that's why I think Houston's the worst team in the league. They're clearly worse than Indy. We'll see. Jacksonville won't beat them. But Indy, I think they can play Baltimore with Minshew. I think they play him pretty tight. So that's what I got there. But with Minshew, it could be a little more, or maybe the same because Richardson has been running it in. Although all you need to do is just blitz them. If you blitz these running quarterbacks, they go back and then they're getting sacked. They're done. They're not going to be able to read the blitz. And you don't stay back because then they start running and they put a move on and the guy never tackles them anyway. So the best way to do that is to get in their face. The games Barry Sanders had trouble with, the playoff games, they attacked the line of scrimmage and you'd get the ball and he'd have five guys, they had nowhere to go. Once he gets running, he can do the moves. But if you get him before you get started, the Steelers did that against Earl Campbell. They were Joe Green and Ham were in the backfield. They get the ball, they had nowhere to go. That's how you stop these guys. Okay, I got New Orleans 27-24 against Green Bay. I got the Jets 20-13 over New England. I got Miami 37-30 over Denver. I got Jacksonville 27-14 over Houston. Again, Houston's got no defense. Stroud's also listed as questionable. We'll see if he plays. I got Buffalo 31-17 against Washington. I think at the end of the day, Buffalo wins the game, but I think Washington can score. Maybe Thurston Howell III's better than we think. I mean, he played at North Carolina. I have no idea. Seattle, now I got to change the Seattle score. I had 27-10 against Vince Young, but now I have to change it with Dalton. I think it's like 27-17 with Dalton playing. KC 31-17. I still don't have them putting up a 40 here, which they might do. They might go off against the Bears because they got to be frustrated they're not scoring. So I would think they're going to I could see 35-0 at the half or something like that. Dallas 38-0 over Arizona. Pitt 17-13 over Oakland. Philadelphia 24-20 over Tampa Bay. And the Rams 21, Cincinnati 20. I just think Stafford wins the game, and I think Burrow is more hurt. Now, I hope he's not. But because he's listed as questionable, now I got to really ponder what's going on with Burrow, so I can't bet. If I don't really know what's happening, I don't want to risk the money. And at this point, I'd rather take the Rams at 9 than Cincinnati to win. Although Cincinnati's back's against the wall, it's a must win, but it's against the Rams. So if you get this and you're playing Dallas, it doesn't matter. You're not going to win. You got to be playing a team like Chicago or Houston or the Lions when your back's against the wall, teams with no defenses. Then you can pile it on them. So I give you the free pick. Take San Diego as the dog and take the Miami-Denver game over. mostly because Miami's an over team. They don't have defense. Denver played Washington 35-33, a 68. And with Sean Payton, I just think Denver, Russell Wilson is starting to, better plays, better coaching. You can't look at last year. So I think he definitely comes in and starts, he's going to light it up. Miami doesn't have a defense. So you got over playing over. And the best part is it's only 47. So you go over 41 is a joke in this game. Against New England, they won 27-20. It was a 47, but that's against Mac Jones. But here you got Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. This game will be in the 30s for sure. But the beauty is it's a 47, only need 41. Where in the San Diego game, what prompted me to take San Diego and not the over was the over's 54. Now I got, look at the difference. It's a whole touchdown different, yet I got the same game, Denver, Miami, as I do San Diego, Minnesota. I do believe San Diego, Minnesota goes over, but it's a lot higher mountain to climb. And again, why take more risk if I don't need to? So therefore, I can take San Diego an 8.5 or 8, but now the Denver, Miami over is a joke because it's 41. It's 47 down to 41. That's a joke. All right, let's take a real quick look at injuries. So what we know from Todd is we've got Dalton in for Young. We got Minshew in for Richardson, which makes these games harder because now you've put in real quarterbacks, not these college kids. So let's go down. I'm just going to look at the big names. So Arizona again, Budda Baker's out, the safety who we all would know. And a lot of linemen, and then obviously Kyler Murray. Atlanta, anybody good? Cordell Patterson is questionable with the thigh. That's about it. Baltimore, Lamar's probable with the hand. He's always hurt. I will bet anybody he doesn't complete the season. Even if he's healthy, he won't complete the season. Duvernay, the receiver, is probable. Clowney, who's now on Baltimore, is probable. But again, how many games will he play till he sits out? I don't even think these guys really get injured. My hamstring, and they sit out for 10 weeks. And how can you tell? Beckham's probable with an ankle. So I see these players playing, so they're really taking Indy seriously. They're all going to strap it up and play. J.K. Dobbins, the Achilles, he's out, unfortunately. He's been injured a lot, the Ohio State guy. Buffalo, we got Cook, the running back. Cook's brother is questionable. And Knox, the tight end, is questionable. Micah Hyde, the safety, is questionable with the hamstring for a change. Von Miller's out, we know. All right. Carolina says Young is doubtful with an ankle, and I think Andy Dalton's starting. I don't think he's going to play. Again, why is Young hurt his ankle? Because he doesn't slide, because these guys just want to come in and think it's college. Miles Sanders, running back from the Eagles, questionable with a pec. All right. Nobody else. The Bears, do they have anybody besides Sayers and Butkus that we would even know? No, I don't know. A bunch of offensive linemen out. Cincinnati, Joe Burrow, questionable with the calf. That we have to keep an eye on. But that's it. He's got Chase, T. Higgins. Cleveland, we know Chubb is out with a broken leg. Amari Cooper is questionable with the groin, which is good for our under because I don't have Chubb, although I kind of want Chubb because he's going to eat up time. He's going to give him the ball 20 times. It's like an Army-Navy game. But they have the other guy from Kansas City. And Woods is out with an Achilles, the wide receiver. That's about it. Dallas, Diggs got hurt his knee. Does that matter? Steve, nobody important. Denver, No, I don't see anybody. So it's good because Jerry Jeudy is usually injured as playing, so that's good for the over. Detroit. So here you've got two receivers, Reynolds and St. Brown. St. Brown is the key receiver. He's questionable with an undisclosed, which I don't know what the hell that means. And the other guy is questionable with a groin. I don't know what an undisclosed is. I'm sure he'll play because it's an undisclosed, unless it's a big injury. Maybe it's a knee injury. They don't want to let you know. Montgomery is questionable with the thigh, the running back from Iowa State. And that's about it. And Herndon Hooker's out with the knee. All right, Green Bay. A bunch of questionables. Aaron Jones, the running back, has got a hamstring. Heard it 2 weeks ago. How long does a hamstring take? I don't know. We need Bobby to get that answer. Houston, CJ Stroud, probable with the shoulder. So Houston's playing Jacksonville. Stroud looks like he's going to play. I don't know if that's good or bad. And but I can't trust Jacksonville. They're so bad. Stingley, the cornerback from LSU, is questionable with the hamstring. Seems like 1 out of every 3 injuries is the hamstring. If only they would play in the preseason. Let's see. All right. Indy, we know Richardson. Now we know is he out? Well, we know Minshew's starting, so we don't know if Richardson's going to come in and run and hurt his head again or what. Again, he doesn't slide. Taylor, the running back, is out with an ankle or his contract or whatever it is. Jacksonville, another shit team. Zach Jones, wide receiver with the knee. It's a lot of questionable. Here's a cornerback out, an O tackle out, a D tackle out. Smoot, I've heard of, linebacker out with an Achilles. And they got a Von Miller on their team out with an Achilles. Kansas City, Watson, probable, the wide receiver. Tony, questionable with the toe. They're better off without him. Pacheco, questionable with the hamstring. You know, they got chocolate eclair. Doesn't matter. San Diego, Mike Williams, receiver, probable. That's good news. Bosa, questionable with the hamstring. We want Bosa out there to get rid of Cousins. When you take San Diego, we want Bosa to play. If we bet the over, we don't want him to play. We got 3 linebackers, Bosa, Rump, and Henley, and all 3 of them have hamstring problems. A 4th one, Kendricks, is questionable with a personal. I don't know what that means. The Rams, Stenson Benson's out with an illness. Cooper, maybe they're trying to redshirt him. And Cooper Kupp's out with the hamstring. Oakland, let's see. Bunch of nobody. Devontae Adams, all right, probable with a concussion. The only name I recognize. I don't see Blitnikoff on there, and I don't see Stabler. Miami, Tyreek Hill, probable, which is perfect for us. Ahmed, the running back from A&M, who's really good, questionable. A lot of defensive questionables. Waddle, questionable with a concussion. He'll play. And that's about it. Minnesota, wide receiver Naylor from Michigan State out. Boom, boom, boom. That's about it. It was just a bunch of center, a linebacker, and an offensive tackle that I can't even pronounce their names. The Giants we saw yesterday. The Jets, Jets. Linebacker questionable. I'm not going to go through the questionables. Breece Hall is questionable with the knee. He will go through. And Aaron Rodgers, of course. That's about it. So who knows? New England, let's see. Offensive lineman, questionable with the knee, questionable with an ankle. questionable with a concussion. I got 3 offensive linemen down. That's good news. Boutte from LSU, our guy, is questionable with a hamstring, another hamstring. 2 guys named Jay Jones who both play DB. One's out with a hamstring and one's got an ankle. Oh, my God, all the hamstring injuries. New Orleans. Kamara eligible week 4. Next week, we get Kamara back to go with Olave and was it Williams? No, Thomas, the running back. They'll be much better next week, I'll tell you that. That's where, and then Jake Hayner's ineligible till week 7. See, that's where Vegas fucks up. We get Kamara back next week. They're going to be looking at the first 3 weeks' stats, which doesn't include Kamara, and the over-under will be too low, and the spread will be, they'll be getting points when they should be giving. And here comes Kamara and Olave and Thomas, and look out. And that's like an extra touchdown a game. Plus, he scores the touchdowns when you're in the red zone right now. Well, the Lion guy, but the Lion guy's out with a hamstring, Williams. I love it. Philly, Sweat, defensive end, questionable with the toe. Let's see. B. Scott, running back, questionable with concussion. He'll play. Gainwell from Memphis, my guy, is questionable with ribs. Nicole Dean from Georgia, linebacker, out with a foot. Oh, man. You can't lose the Georgia guys. Pittsburgh. A bunch of questionable. Safety's probable. McFarland's out with the knee. That doesn't mean anything. Johnson, a wide receiver. I don't know who that is. Haywood, the defensive tackle, I know who he is got out till November with a groin. The Niners we saw yesterday, Seattle, Noah Fant, tight end, probable, so who cares? Now Adams is coming back to safety. The All-Pro is probable Sunday. That'll be a huge lift for them. DK Metcalf, probable with ribs, wide receiver. Devin Bush from Michigan, linebackers, questionable with the shoulder. I'm sure he's playing. Kenny McIntosh from Georgia is out with the knee. Damn. Georgia guys can't get hurt. Tampa Bay, Vita V, the defensive lineman's questionable with a pectoral. That's a huge injury. He's a good run stopper. I don't know. Running backs, Edmonds and Vaughn. I don't know who these guys are. And that's it. In Tennessee, DeAndre Hopkins is probable. Henry's questionable with the toe. All right, keep an eye on Henry. And Washington, bunch of probables, and a couple of tight ends on IR, 3 tight ends on IR, 2 defensive tackles and a cornerback. So they're pretty slim there, but they don't seem to matter. Okay, so those are your injuries. And we're going to go to Mark McGuire in a minute. Questions, comments on that? Todd, Richardson is out, Minshew starting. Yeah, I know. Professor, which one us a better bet? Take Dallas or Kansas City? Weren't you listening? Well, the score I gave you was Dallas 38-0, Kansas City 31-17. I'll let you make the decision. If you go with the better defensive team, do you honestly think Joshua Dobbs is going to light up Dallas? Now, the problem with Kansas City is they're not playing very well. They only got 17 on Jacksonville, who at this point I don't think is this super defense. Not when they gave up 21 the first week to Indy. Maybe they are, but it's being shaded. Now Jacksonville gets Houston. So if they shut them out, you still have no clue what kind of defense Jacksonville is. Maybe it's a little better. But I mean, at this point, I mean, I think Dobbs isn't going to hurt Dallas. Kansas City should light up the Bears because KC's got a loss, and they can't afford to lose at home to the Bears. It's embarrassing enough they lost at home to the Lions. We'll never hear the end of that one. So, I mean, I gotta. Dallas is the A team. It's a much better play. You gotta. That's why you take the A team. They have the offense and the defense, and that's why you kind of. Some of these teams are just offensive. San Diego, Minnesota, neither of them have a defense. Miami doesn't have a defense. Apparently, Denver doesn't have a defense. Washington and Buffalo, nobody has a defense. So you want to bet the defense among everything. The defense will stop the offense. So when you get to, let's say, New Orleans, Green Bay, supposedly New Orleans has a little better defense. Again, it's sugar-coated because of the Carolina win. So we will see, but that's what you're looking for. So again, think about the score that you've got to make the score ahead of time. You can't wait till you see a line. Somebody did that yesterday. He said, well, I go, what score do you think? And they said the Niners 27-17. I said, mine's 30-10, but I made it before the line. Then I see what the line is. You made it after seeing the line. You came up with 10. I didn't see the Giants getting 17. I thought it was a little bit higher. I mean, I had him by 18. He had him by 10. I had him by 20. I had him 30-10. I didn't think the Giants could score that much, and they didn't. And I thought Frisco, hard for the Giants defense to stop them. So I saw a little more than 27, and I saw a little less than 17. But even with his score, you could have easily played the Niners. You can't get deceived into taking, because it's a lot of points, I'm going to bet it. I know most of the NFL games are close, but not all, and not against the A teams. Dallas beat the Jets 30-10. Was that close? The Niners killed Pittsburgh like 40-7. Was that close? No. The close games are the Lions in Seattle, those teams, right? Green Bay, Atlanta. Those are the close games. You don't fuck with the A teams, and you don't bet on the Z team. So if you stay with the middle teams, most of those games are close, but you can see it. Buffalo, Washington, probably. Pitt, Oakland will be close. Philly, Tampa, probably. LA, Cincinnati, those will be your close games, but not Dallas, Arizona, or Chicago and Kansas City. Those games won't be close. They shouldn't be close. Again, you're trying to get to the expected outcome, which is the score. Now, I know they don't always go that way. I mean, I hit the Niner game 30-10, 30-12. But I don't expect to hit all these scores, but it's the basis of the bet. Oh, I think the San Diego, Minnesota game will be close, and I love San Diego as a dog. They got Herbert. They got Keenan Allen. They got Kelly from UCLA, the running back. They got a good defense. They got a Bosa. They got a good team. They'll be in the game, and Minnesota doesn't have a defense. So San Diego is going to light it up. And conversely, the Miami and Denver game both have really good offenses and really shit defenses. So they'll go up and down the field scoring. You're not going to see 10-3 at half. You're going to see 21-20 at half, which covers the 41. That's what you're looking at. So you've got to understand the team to understand the score. Right? Is Arizona going to light up Dallas? No fucking way. Just like the Giants didn't light up Frisco. The problem is there any other 18, Buffalo maybe, but then it's the Jets defense. That's the Niner defense. You're not lighting the Jets up either, right? So that's the other problem. So how is New England going to light up the Jets? So that makes the Jets a very good play. So that's what you're looking for, and that's the rhyme and reason of it. How do you get to the bottom line? How do you get the score? How do you bet the game? So your first read's got to be defense. Who's got the best defenses? And these are just stats, but there's an art to it. You can't just look at them. You got to realize, oh, wait a minute, Baltimore beat Houston, so it doesn't count. Then again, Cincinnati was 27-24. That's probably the true Baltimore team, not the team that beat Houston, 24-7 or whatever the score was. So in this case, you got to be careful because of the new quarterbacks and like a Fields who's terrible. I mean, he was over last year, but this year he's not really doing much. They're on to him. They've seen it. Now they've defensed it. Now he doesn't know what to do because now he has to throw and he can't. C.J. Stroud's in the same position. He seems to be more of a thrower. Richardson's totally running, and Bryce Young seems to be totally passing, but he's not. He doesn't have the receivers. He's not playing New Mexico State. So what you going to do in the NFL? He's not going to do anything. He'll be another Mac Jones and Tagovailoa. Even Hurts is not a good quarterback. He runs a little bit. He's getting a little bit better. Tua's getting better. Still can't handle the big games, but we'll see if he can. How long until he gets his concussion? And we hope he doesn't get it this week. We need him to get the over. Then he can get hurt. So that's the NFL, basically. I have your free pick, San Diego and Denver, Miami, over. And then I have one lock. So I have 2 college locks, 4 teams, and then 2 pros. So that's 6 teams and 3 locks. And certainly you can play a 6-teamer or put the team, I'll give you Denver, Miami. Maybe you put it with the lock. Maybe you put it with, one of the other teams we've mentioned and, play a 3-team teaser. I do a lot of that because I know 3 teams that'll win, right? So I got San Diego. I got, the over in the Denver, Miami. Let's say the over in the Atlanta, Detroit. 3-team teaser. I'm getting odds now. I like all the games. I'm going to bet them anyway. So why not take some odds with them? So stuff like that. But that's kind of advanced teaser. But I don't like when people make bets because they're getting good odds. You can't do that. You gotta win the bet. Can you win the bet? Forget the odds. That's all I hear on these idiot BetMGM channels. Oh, I'm going to play the player props. I'm getting 50-1 that Joe Blow's going to sneeze in the 3rd quarter or something. Yeah, but I'm getting good odds. And they don't understand that the chance of winning that bet and the odds on that bet are terrible, right? They're not good odds that somebody's going to gain 60 yards in the game. What if he gets hurt? What if they don't run the ball? What if they get far behind and they have to throw? What if they get far ahead and they're going to run because of kick returns and strip sacks and pick sixes? All of a sudden you're up 28-0. Your receiver's not going to get anything. They're going to run the ball because they're up 28-0. These props are just so stupid to bet. We have no fucking idea. Hey, G, how you doing today? So that's what you have to understand is all the work that goes into trying to figure out what's going to happen. What's the expected outcome? So I do all the work for you. And then let's hope that happens. So last week was a bad assumption on my end by thinking Houston Indy is going to be a low scoring game or Denver Washington. Now I've adjusted and I said, you know what? Denver's not an under. They don't have a defense. Russell Wilson scoring on a decent Washington defense. So I quickly adjust and play them over with Miami. That's the professor, like thinking very quickly going, okay, I'm getting off of them under and now I'm going to play them over because that's what they are. And so I quickly recognize they're very good. They're not very good. I still think Houston's terrible. I think the Bears are terrible. And that's still proving out. So that's okay. Like I said, I'm shocked Oakland's favored. I think I'm going to buy more locks. I'm so broke, though. I feel bad when you buy the locks, they lose. And I'm like, and then the week you don't buy, they win. And I'm like, fuck. I want you to, that's why I try to give you the free plays here. I try to give you good free plays so you can make your money back. But yeah, it's, however you want, G. Do what you're comfortable with, but it's, these early weeks, you're really trying to get the feel. And week one doesn't really count. And then week two, you think it's going to be like week one. And so you need 3-4 weeks. So this, like after this week, I have a pretty good idea now, but based on week two, after this week, I'll have 3 weeks of data. The only team that really is fucked is Baltimore is going to play Indy and Houston. And same thing with Jacksonville. They played Indy, and now they're playing Houston. So both those teams are like, I don't know what to do with them because they're really not playing. It's like they're playing high school teams in college. Let's play the real teams. So I don't know. Anyway, that's what you have. So free teams, San Diego to hang in with 8 points against Minnie. Minnie doesn't have a defense to stop them. This should be probably both in the 30s. Like I said, I got 27-24 San Diego. It could easily be 37-34 San Diego or Minnesota. And then the over in the Denver-Miami game, it's 47. We tease it to 41. I wouldn't be surprised if at halftime we're in the upper 30s, 35 or 40. All we need is 21-20 to get the W. That's a joke in this game. I got 37-30 Miami, but it could be 37-30 Denver. Just to see, Russell Wilson can go off. There's no defense. We know Hill's playing. Waddle, I'm sure, will play. They might list him as questionable, but when it gets to game day and the other players are like, you got to take the needle, they're not going to let the players down, and that's just what happens. So that is that. College, you have your free picks. The Thunder Dame, Ohio State over, which is very low. And the under in the Georgia game because they play every game under. What a defense they have, right? They're at 8. They're giving up 8 points a game. They're the lowest again. It's a fucking joke. But the couple of teams that are really low is Oklahoma is a very low defense right now. So the Clemson coach is finally playing the Clemson defense for Oklahoma to go with Gabriel and the UCF offense. So this is a very strong team, Oklahoma. That's why they could never win. They never had the defense. Now I think they have the defense to really do some damage. So USC, no defense. Now I looked for the UCLA game real quickly, a little college. UCLA is now Utah's now 5.5 over UCLA. I'm checking the Rising injury. Todd, what's our update on Rising? It's still listed as questionable with the knee. If he's going to play, he's going to play Saturday because it's a huge game in conference against UCLA, their big opponent. Well, the big opponent's USC. They are not going to win the game with the other guy. So if Rising is not playing, this is a either under or UCLA. It's probably an under because UCLA's defenses look better. So if Rising is not playing, this is probably an under because Utah will not score, but they have a great defense. They got the Georgia defense. So their defense is super strong. The kid at UCLA is a freshman, first road game. And I like what they did against Coastal Carolina. But as we saw yesterday, Coastal Carolina's got McCall, but not much else. So that's the mistake these passing offenses. They think they're good until you get to the red zone, then they don't work. And if you don't have a runner in the red zone, you can pass within the 20s and kick a lot of field goals. Unless you have a good quarterback who can score like Caleb Williams, like Penix, like Bo Nix, who can score in the red zone, either run or just they have good offensive coordinator. Like Washington's got a great offensive coordinator, great plays in the red zone. Guys are wide open. Notre Dame does that too. They'll throw in guys wide open in the end zone. You're like, how the hell did that happen? So keep that in mind. We'll talk about it tomorrow about Rising. I think it's an afternoon game. Well, it's in Utah. It can't be at noon. I doubt it would be a noon game. I hope not. But we'll look at it. Like I said, the spread went from 4.5 to 5.5, which means Rising maybe he's playing, but they play the games with us. We thought he was going to play against Florida, and he didn't play. I think you're looking at a similar score. If he doesn't play, I think you'll get 24-20 or something like that. UCLA is not going to run it up on this Utah defense. And if they don't have Rising, the quarterback's just going to safe passes, running the ball, and play defense. He doesn't go for 4th and 1 at his own 20 like the Lions do. What a joke that is. But that's what you got. I got a lot of good college games this week. Jesus. Beautiful week for that. One note in the USC game. The first 3 Arizona State quarterbacks are all out. Pine is their starter, has been out. Then I noticed the next two, Bouquet and another guy, are doubtful with knee injuries. Arizona State's going to have the running back play quarterback. So UCLA, you can't play the game over. You just play USC because they're laying like 35, but Arizona State can't score. And USC, nobody can stop them anyway, except for Utah. Maybe Oregon can stop them, but that's it. So anyway, so that's your free one there. Ohio State, Notre Dame should be very entertaining, very high scoring. And the same thing, and then the other game is Georgia under. So that's your free college. That's your free pro. So you got 4. And then very soon, like I said, I got 3 locks, a lot of good college, and another 3 or 4 good pros. And I'm very careful in my pro picks this week. I will not have an abortion this week. Keep in mind, Minshew in for Indy, Dalton in for Carolina. That's a big, going from Young to Dalton is like what are you kidding me? And it's the same thing with Richardson to Minshew. The better quarterbacks are playing, I expect more points. So you throw out the stats, although Indy wasn't over with Richardson, but then he was running and the defenses didn't know how to blitz him for some reason. All right, I guess that's football. All right. Now, this Mark McGuire had notice he has no guest, and he gets right to the point, and all us gold people are going to be very, very happy very, very soon. Bobby, where are you? You got to watch Mark McGuire. And Luke, where are you? You guys keep fucking hammering me with when's it going to go up? Well, we've got a pretty good answer right now. So, off to economics for a little bit, but I still will take gold or football. But I just want to get through this.
This trade, it usually means gold gets sold off. So after all the long, really all the long dollar, what it means is if you're long the dollar, you short gold, it's a foreign exchange. It's like long dollar, long short euro, and et cetera, et cetera. Now people forget that gold and silver are not just commodities; they are currencies. So let's address that short-term situation first. And just to provide a little context of what we're seeing right now, let's start by benchmarking gold against the steeply rising dollar. And we'll look at why Stockholm syndromed gold market pundits need to rub the scales from their eyes to know and understand the truth. The global south is knocking on the back door, chaps, and gold is calling out the dollar-denominated price. Now, following an extremely volatile 3 weeks of September, can't believe it. I mean, here we are already coming up for the fourth week. Let's look at the short-term chart chatter, which is what a lot of the questions have revolved around. But also, let's look at the notable takeaways as we head into the end of this third quarter at the end of this month.
The question is when will gold break away from COMEX? When will COMEX
first and second tier liquidity
gold go up
are actually
and break
anticipating a
COMEX?
physically driven contraction of this massive short paper to long physical divider? Simply put, borrowed and sold gold has to be repaid. In fact, current paper market gold leverage has reached the sort of extremes not seen since the 2008 financial crisis, but it's actually layered even more bullishly and slightly structurally differently as we enter 2024 trading. Now, if we just use the house-rigged 95% win ratio, which is like any good casino, these borrowed COMEX-centric gold futures positions, they rely on these undeliverable bets against gold being able to be squared against the speculators inside the casino before these bets against gold spill out of the back door into the net stable funding ratio compliant physical delivery global markets. Now that's kind of like the encapsulating it. But currently, this expansion of paper market leverage, meaning how many chips are put into play that have a willing taker, this leverage has been keying off the automated, fiat-backed, inversely correlated dollar, gold, cash-settled algos. We've talked about them before. It's straightforward. It's simple. They're just algorithms that automate every rise in the dollar, sell gold, etc. Now, they mindlessly sell gold. They've been mindlessly selling gold against a 10-week dollar rally, but have run into an unfactored drain of physical gold, which the paper market relies on to leverage these Fed, COMEX, LBMA-centric borrowed gold short sales. And of course, what we're really highlighting is the officially driven Fed-centric gold market interventions. And why so aggressive? Because the Fed feels threatened that a rise in the use of monetized physical gold is undermining the hegemonic dollar-based sanctions that they imposed. And we did, as we discussed in our last episode in a lot more detail, in the larger picture, physical gold is increasingly being employed as the perfect barter currency for the sanctioned Russian energy trade. And in fact, this barter trade seems to have slipped right off the radar until just 4 weeks ago. In fact, we drew attention to this last time. This trade has actually not ever ceased to function, all the way back to when Russia officially pegged a gold gram price to its oil trade back in March 2022, when this incursion originally, and the sanction originally hit them. And of course, the reason they did that was because it circumvented sanctions and it became the target of an official gold market intervention, which has not ceased since. However, this trade has just become far more sophisticated and at the margin is now severely undermining the resulting Western paper price as it runs into a higher, physically deliverable global south determined supply-demand price. This is severely disrupting this siloed, leveraged, ring-fenced Western gold market structure. It's not a real structure. Leverage works in two ways. And at the margin, again, this unfactored exit of physical out of the LBMA CME ring fence, it presents the short sellers, people who've sold gold they don't have, relying on squaring these fiat-backed foreign exchange bets inside the casino. And they rely on that. And this is a big problem. Oh, goodness, look, I can't wait to expand on this in a minute. But before I do, to answer your questions, let's wrap up the short-term stuff now and then really get into it. Now, this might not interest non-traders, so I'll keep it to a minimum, but I promise I will get to the cartel's demise. And it is important because we do have to look after everyone here. There are people who really do require to know what the price is doing on a shorter term basis and the actual structure. So bear with. So first, really stepping back to look at the gold and silver short to medium term perspective as related to an overbought, Fed-driven dollar index rally. Over the last 2 weeks, the dollar index has hard tested its 6-month March the 10th high. So that was the last time we hit the 105s in the dollar index. Now, the dollar index has risen steadily from around 99.58 on the 14th of July to 105, I think it was 105.43, I think it was, before topping out last Thursday, basically. Now, when benchmarking the dollar index 105 level to gold and silver, under the daily chart chatter that we see, the volatility, it's quite evident that physically driven safe haven gold and silver demand is steadily eating into this 100% paper-centric inverse dollar to gold and silver algo. Now, to put things into perspective, look at the levels where gold and silver were trading the last time the dollar index tagged the 105 March 10th highs. On that day, the gold had just commenced a large rally with gold trading from $1,830. And so last week's over $90 higher low that was created at gold futures, that was 1922 or thereabouts. So from a gold perspective, that is actually trading at $9,000 higher per comex contract than when the dollar index traded it last at 105. Now, that's pretty painful if you've bet against gold since March. And this illustrates how this long dollar, short gold foreign exchange trade is bullishly losing traction.
That's amazing, Andrew. And how does this work for silver then?
Yes, I figured that might be the next question, Shane. Of course, it's actually even more potentially a bullish setup. So when benchmarking this $105 index back to March, silver was at $19.90. That's pretty much the lows it made then. Now, last week's low was $22.71, and that is $2.81 per ounce higher. That's $14,000 per contract higher than in March when the dollar index was at 105. So think about that for a pain if you're on the wrong side of that. So this beggars the question, really, why are the dollar index and the silver gold benchmarks higher? Well, really, we need to cover the two main reasons for it because, as you know, as long-time subscribers know, something major happened on the 1st of January. Spot gold became an NSFR-compliant, deliverable, fully backed first-year asset class that really began to compete with US Treasuries. And gold, for the first time in over 50 years, began attracting both paper and physical gold, safe haven demand. Now, as far as the paper gold markets are concerned, there is evidence that an increasing group of the COMEX commodity trading advisors, this group, have recognized that Basel III compliant gold morphed into this first-tier competing asset class, and they're actually employing at least some paper gold as a risk hedge, meaning they're cash-settled comex open interest longs, yes, the same casino chips, and because they're being used as a financial tool, they've actually become sticky and far less able to be rinsed by the cartel. So saying is, so net of what can be cash settled against the muscle memory specs who have no skin other than a paper position, have no use for gold and silver other than a bet, the paper price has risen actually in relationship to this inverse fiat settled dollar index precious metals crosses that we talk about. And secondly, there's two real main reasons. The very recent March 2023 failures, if we remember, not just long ago, it triggered the first round of bank bailouts since 2008. And that exposed the Fed's weak flank after raising rates so fast, it exposed these banks to really unfactored duration risk. With the Fed dropping the ball before being rescued, of course, the dollar index sold off and safe havens were sought. Now, fresh banking contagion concerns were perceived to be just under the glossed over surface. So there's a couple of good reasons why gold is starting to erode into this rise into the dollar. We've seen the dollar rise with gold in the past, not since 2008 really, but it has happened. Now, the Fed relies on a rising stock market as the cover to raise rates. And this is when we evidence the Fed aggressively intervening in all of the crosses, not just gold and silver, especially gold, but not just gold and silver, making sure that they wanted to keep that stock market just at that right. They'll talk it to just the right level. They don't want to see a crashing stock market. It makes it virtually impossible to raise rates. However, with the Fed boxed in and deposit outflows from the banks racing into money market funds, these tail risks prompted a round of Moody's second-tier bank downgrades, remember, as well as Fitch, let's not forget it, threatening the first-tier too-big-to-fail bank downgrades. Now, first-tier bank downgrades do not get implemented or discussed lightly. It pushes back against the all-is-well Fed narrative. Well, it illustrates that the Fed is traversing a knife edge as it tries to walk the inflation talk while really gaping into the financial hellhole that they've created. That even a 25 basis point September hike could be sufficient to risk this forewarned first-tier too-big-to-fail Lehman moment bank downgrades, which would undoubtedly force the Fed to backtrack and cut rates. Now, obviously, we're actually recording this episode just ahead of FOMC tonight. So when you'll be viewing this episode, the Fed's plate spinning efforts will already be in the rearview mirror. So at least you can look and look at how this all relates. Now, this is why we are once again evidencing really the thin end of a large safe haven move out of risk, or at least a move to hedge risk. Now, footprints indicate a paper and physical gold demand setup that really closely mirrors a large move into safe havens that really followed the 2008 banking crisis, which initially evidenced a race into safe haven dollars, and that caused an initial gold crash or downside dislocation. But then, as the dust settled, evidenced a race out of cash into gold and silver. Who the hell was going to trust cash in a bank? And as we discussed in our last episode, the last time we evidenced anywhere close to this scale of dollar to gold market disconnect was 2008. And again, this was the period when gold rose alongside the dollar index as both actually began to compete with each other as safe havens. Well, if you're going to race in anyway, obviously being the cleanest shirt of a dirty laundry, you need to get into something. Well, gold is perceived as a safe haven, but clearly gold has a 5,000-year history of that. The dollar very much less. Now, following massive bank failures, though, this was in 2008, and there was downgrades. Both paper and physical gold were then, right after that, chased into a 3-year, $1,200 safe haven rally with really almost no pullbacks along the way. And joined at the hip silver also rallied alongside the dollar index, rising well over $40 as investors exited bank investments, also converted their bank withdrawals into safe haven silver as well as gold. So really, to sum up, the Fed is now playing with fire. Today, we are already seeing bond yields at 2007 highs. And if they insist on walking the rate hike talk, we likely see bond yields spike higher again, which will almost certainly trigger the warned pre-Jackson Hole Fitch and Moody's first tier too big to fail bank downgrades, that opening up the potential for a current dollar and gold safe haven rally to unfold. Only this time, gold is now a first-tier asset class.
Yeah, that's amazing, Andrew. Information.
Right. Moving further on in the game.
Of a willingness for Russia to offer us to swap a $40 odd plus or minus $40 higher price for gold bullion in a direct barter for the energy trade. Now, obviously, this unfactored physical demand, because if you're a friendly country and you are and you would need to buy oil or gas and even grain in some instances, then obviously, what's your best way of doing it? Go buy physical at the comex price, take delivery of it, and then exchange it for a hell of a lot better price energy. So now we've highlighted how these purchases are bought in small enough volumes so as not to incur large premiums. Now then this bullion is then de-dollarized by way of exchanging, bartering it for oil, gas, grain. While this trade is very attractive for energy traders on a limited basis, this gold for commodity trade will very soon be formalized into Glazier's gold-backed 20 commodity bricks plus currency. Now, this trade has become far more sophisticated, and again, at the margin, is now severely undermining the Western paper gold price as it is arbitraged against an increasingly liquid, higher, physically deliverable, global south determined supply demand price. I cannot stress enough how when leverage unwinds at the margin, the unfactored exit of physical from this LBMA CME ring fence presents the short sellers relying on squaring these positions, these short bets against gold inside the casino. It presents them an increasingly larger problem. The Fed's bets against gold are coming into the crosshairs. Now, notably, as we mentioned last time, this strain on physical gold stepped up in earnest after the BRICS summit moved over to Moscow just 3 weeks ago, unreported, of course. This was also on the radar of last week's East Economic Forum, the EEF Vladivostok attended by leaders and government representatives from the Asia-Pacific countries, the global south, allying themselves to build out a pivot from the West to Asia. None of this gets reported, really. Non-dollar payment systems were front and center of these meetings. And much as Glazier's BRICS currency basket is under discussion, it is the gold-backed 20 commodity currency option that would plug the gap and ultimately enable a more formalized currency basket to ultimately be established. A more realistic, truer, global, physically determined supply-demand price is just unavoidable. And given gold will ultimately at least partly back some of 80% of a multi-trillion-dollar energy market, an as yet unknown higher gold price is going to emerge. And while the BIS and all the central banks except the Fed are long physical gold, there will be little resistance to Western gold price revaluation elsewhere. And the Fed is going to have very little choice but to also tap into its gold revaluation accounts to avert global central banks en masse demanding repatriation of their exceedingly underpriced US domiciled gold holdings. This is a deal that is not on the radar.
So, Andrew, what you
So that'll make everybody happy who's in the gold and silver. Because they're going to revalue it, which means it's 2,000 goes to 10 or 20. And once the cat's out of the bag, all of a sudden, the people that don't listen to me and say I got oil stocks are going to say, oh, fuck, I better buy gold. Because once people see gold at 10,000, it's 20, because then everybody will jump in. And silver will be right there with them at this high price. Let me get some water, just a second. So that's the $1 million question that everybody keeps asking me, which is basically when. Not if, but when. And that's about as pure an answer as you're going to get. They're going to revalue it. What they want, basically, we know there'll be gold-backed currency with BRICS. We know the U.S. is inflating it and trying to cover it up. You can only cover it up so long. We then know that Russia and Saudi Arabia want to get paid for their oil in gold or something related to gold, gold-backed currencies. They don't want to get paid in cheap dollars. They want to get paid in gold, which makes sense. So everything goes to gold. They've got to reprice it. It's on the books really cheap. They gotta make gold a much higher price, because there's not enough gold to pay for all the oil and the gas that Saudi Arabia and Russia and Dubai print. So that's basically what he's saying. There's one more. Let's see. All right.
Now, some people are concerned that they might have to go for a long period without getting outside food.
Great interview you did last week with Jeff Snyder. It was amazing. This, I guess, since this episode aired, we've had a lot of questions, and the community's asking you know, what you think about the Fed's ability to micromanage the terrible mess that they're in right now. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Shane, and Jeff provided some great insights into the
Euro-dollar
market, which so few people understand. And it also brought to mind that it's been 15 years since the Lehman collapse and the bank that triggered the global financial crisis, their sudden bankruptcy triggering the daisy chain of events that led to severe global repercussions. Now, my discussion with Jeff last week about digital currencies really raised some interesting topics. Namely, that decentralized blockchain technology, a trustless accounting medium, is already out of the bag, and its frictionless utility ultimately challenges the status quo, threatening to make banks redundant. Now, obviously, once automated, KYC, AML procedures are verified, why would we pay a bank a friction fee to process our transactions? I mean, blockchain technology is an existential threat to the banking system. And with this in mind, it looks like the Fed is pushing on a string. But in the very short term, this out of control Fed has to be very, very careful. If they raise rates, even if they try and emulate Lagarde and hike, then pause, they risk triggering the forewarned Fitch first tier, too big to fail bank downgrade. And while we expect the obligatory algo-driven volatility into every Fed event, either way, hike or pause, with gold so close to central bank bids and major concerns of a banking crisis being triggered, liquidity providers anticipate a forced physical related rally to ensue. So feedback from our meetings with the liquidity providers following last week's heavily gained price suppression, even though spot gold central bank bids were front run, they still confirm the largest central bank delivery and fulfillment since March, when gold was trading at $1,818, more layers of short stops will be uncovered. These are bets against gold. And once you start getting above them, you need to jump out of that trade. And they'll be uncovered once known central bank sovereign buy stops are triggered around gold futures, 1968, thereabouts. And as far as silver is concerned, as we identified in our last market update, every dip below $23 spot, that's 23.27 in futures, has been aggressively jumped on by Indian Asian buyers and was unable to stick. It is Indian demand that is forcing insiders to ring the register on naked short specs way earlier than they'd like to. And whichever way you look at the short, medium, or long-term picture, every single gram, ounce, kilo, and ton of gold and silver is grossly underpriced. And under the smoke and mirrors swan song, paper market action, just one question, guys. How much physical do you own?
Finally, he didn't say it last week. So it's coming to a head very, very soon, which is good news for us who have gold and silver going, when's it going to finally go up in price? Because we know it's been price fixed by COMEX, the paper. So we're killing the paper. With all the activity in bricks, that's the killer. So now when Luke asks the question, I'll just show him that. What was I going to say? I was watching this movie. Quick change of pace. I'm watching this movie, Heat. Never seen it before. Al Pacino, Robert De Niro. Stupidest movie I ever seen in my life. Why do I like Money Heist so much? And why am I the professor? Because he's smart. He has all these moves and counter moves. If A happens, I'm going to do B. He has an escape plan. So he's in a bank stealing the gold, has a plan to get the gold out, has a plan to get the people out. I'm watching this movie, and it's like these guys are a bunch of fucking idiots. Some guy tells the police that the bank's going to get robbed, so they end up robbing a bank, and they get shot. There's no, how stupid are these guys? And then there's no exit strategy. We're going to run to the car. Oh, yeah, that'll work. And it was just so stupid. Then he's trying to get away, and Robert De Niro stops at a hotel to shoot the guy who told on him. Let's get the fuck out of the way. They don't, what, are you an idiot? So he gets himself killed because he does that. I thought it was terribly poor written. I thought Pacino and De Niro were terrible in the movie. If you're going to do something, you have to have exit strategies. What if this happens? What if that happens? And you go through all the contingencies. That's what a real professor does, right? If you're stealing a bank or picking football games or buying gold and silver, there's always the contingency. It doesn't go smoothly, and you have to prepare for that. So when I watched, after I got done with this Heat movie, I just put a negative on Netflix, said this sucks. So I just wanted to bring that up. But all these finance movies, there's another finance movie, Arbitrage, I was watching. And Richard Gere, an older one, is running this company, billion-dollar company. And he gets in bed with the Russians on a copper mine in Russia. And he does his due diligence. He says, it's just printing money. It's just printing money. And then all of a sudden, so he's making money, and then all of a sudden it stops, but he's got money. He can't get his money out. And the government switched. Imagine the Russian government not being friendly. Now, the only flaw with that is if you are making money hand over fist and you're dealing with the Russians, the simple answer is to pay them off, because Russians are the most bought people you could ever have. So if you're in Russia and you need to get out, you pay them and they let you out because all they care about is money. So that didn't make sense either. So he's doing this deal And it's and then he all the money is trapped because Russia was not a friendly government. And you're thinking, but didn't you know that up front? Russia's not a friendly government. How you would ever trust Russia to be a friendly government, which is a dictator communist country, is beyond me. I don't get how in God's name you can think minds in Russia. So it's printing money. Well, then get your money out. Pay them whatever they need to get the money out. And how can you trust Russia? The writing was so bad, and Richard Gere was so bad in the movie. It just blows my mind how, it's like margin call. Didn't the guys know that the housing market was collapsing because people had no credit, were buying houses, and when the interest rates go up, they can't afford it and they're going to default? I knew that the way before it happened. As soon as they announced that they were letting people with bad credit buy mortgages, then 2 and 2 is 4. So it's just amazing how stupid people are that they can't think ahead, or if they see A, it leads to B and C. You print the dollar, you're inflating it, dollar goes to zero, gold goes through the roof. Very simple 4-step process. Anyway, so what's taking so long is we are now fighting. Not only are we fighting the banks, we're fighting Wall Street, which is kind of the same thing. Neither of them want gold because if you notice, Wall Street does not commission their guys in gold. So if they try to sell you gold, which they won't because there's no commission on it, they will put you in stocks and bonds every time, or these real estate trusts. Any broker on Wall Street will never put you in gold because they don't get commission on it. So they don't want gold to go up, because then everybody's going to jump off the stocks and off the bonds into gold. And as Mark McGuire said, all these people got out of the bank, got out of stocks into T-bills or in the money markets. They're still going to get crushed because they're in this. They didn't get off the boat, right? The boat's still sinking. Instead of the second floor, they're on the third floor. The boat's still sinking. The dollar's still going to zero. So you got out of stocks into bonds or into money markets, which is still this. So I'll give you 5% of this. I don't want 5% of that. Like I told you, I went into my bank. The guy offers me an annuity for 9%. And I says, I don't want to be in money. The money is going to be zero. So 9% of zero is still going to be zero. Thank you very much. I'm going to buy more gold because that won't go to zero. That's going to go through the roof. And now with this finally revalue, I got to watch this again and just bring in the highlights tomorrow. But again, with that happening, the price of gold will go. And then once it goes, it's been suppressed for 50 years. Look out. So I strongly advise anybody to buy it now. I'm going to go to the gold store, I think, after this and buy it. And buy it until they don't have any more at this price. It's still $2,000 an ounce roughly to buy, and until it isn't. And again, these guys don't know what they're doing. Once it goes, you're going to need 10 grand to buy it. Which, if you have, I would say go buy 5 ounces now. Don't fuck around. It's going up. It's like Kansas City's beating the Bears. We know that. So gold's going up. We know that. It's not a question, right? So that's really what's happening. So with that said, that's why it's been held, is Wall Street doesn't want you in gold because they make all these millions and millions of dollars selling you paper products, stocks, bonds, real estate. That's where they make the commission. And then that's why they got $20 million salaries, because there's so much money going in because people are so stupid. They don't know what to do with their money. So you're smart enough to get a job and make money. And you're smart enough to have a budget, and you buy your bills and you have something left over. And you're smart enough to then go, what do I do with this money? And then you're smart enough to put it in gold and silver, but you're smart enough to try to invest it. The problem is you invested in stocks because you think, oh, Amazon or AI or Tesla or electric cars, that's where I'm going to make my money. And it's not, because you're still in the stock market and the dollar's still collapsing and it's going to zero. So anything dollar related is you're going to get fucked. That's it, right? So what do I see? Oh, these stocks are going to go up. Buy on the dip. They want you in the market because it's all paper. It's how they make their money, not how you make the money. This is why I bring up Attack on Wall Street so much. The poor guy lost $60,000 because he didn't know what he was doing. He trusted somebody who all they cared about was taking his commission, which is why he kills everybody at the end. But that's what they do. They don't care about you. They care about themselves. It's about making that. That's why I can never be a stockbroker. Because if I'm a stockbroker, I got a problem because I'm going to put everybody in gold and silver. I'll never put anybody in Microsoft or Amazon because it's still part of the system. It's still part of the dollar that's going to collapse. And I can't put you in another dollar because all the dollars are going to collapse. Every dollar in every country is going to zero. So if I meet the guy from Attack on Wall Street with the 60 grand and I find out he's an Army veteran, I'm going to, buddy, buy gold. Buy gold, I'll tell you what, give me 10% of what you make on it. He would have made 50 grand because I looked at the price on gold in 2006 and then 2010 it went up, I don't know, $400 or $500. Even though it's price fixed, it's still went up. So the key is to understand it's price fixed. As we just listened to Mark McGuire say, yes, it's price fixed, but here's why it's about to blow up and they're going to have to reprice it. It's now Russia and Saudi Arabia and BRICS, and they want to get paid in gold for their oil, which has to increase the price of books. They want to make more on it. They want, give me a gram, a quarter ounce of gold for my oil. But you know what? We don't want that at $2,000 an ounce. We want it at $20,000 an ounce. So you want my oil, I need gold for it. And we're going to reprice gold. So they want it repriced. They're bigger guns than Wall Street and the banks in the U.S. who really don't have a hand to lean on because they've been relying on the military, but Russia is much stronger and China. So you just realize that we've been fighting Wall Street and the banks, JP Morgan, but now we finally have somebody on our side, which is Russia, China, if you want to look at it like that want gold to go up. If we want gold to go up, we're being fought by the banks and Wall Street, which are basically the same. And then here comes Russia and China to our aid to fight the banks and Wall Street and say, fuck you. We've got the gold, which is worth something. You've got this, which is worth nothing. And therefore that's the difference. So now gold, that's why it's the golden rule and gold's the king and whatever else you want to say about it. You cannot lose with gold. You have no risk in gold. It's going to get repriced because of the demand for gold. So as I teach you about markets, there's only a market if somebody wants something. I can only sell my Canadian club if somebody wants to buy it. Otherwise, it has no value. I can't sell something nobody wants. Nobody will pay me for it. They don't want it. So it's worthless. And that's what's going to happen. Nobody wants this. That's what the de-dollarization is. Nobody wants George. So if nobody wants George, the value of George is zero. And therefore, this is worthless and nobody wants them. Everybody's getting out. They don't like the way the U.S. is putting sanctions, raising interest rates. They're basically fucking the rest of the world because they're trying to pay off the debt, which they can't pay. The debt, $35 trillion that you can't pay. They don't get enough tax revenue from us. And you can't tax us at 100% or nobody will work. Why would I work if everything goes to taxes? So they can't do that. All they can do is print it. But if you start printing trillions of dollars to pay the debt off, that money is worthless. And the value of the money drops because you printed it. You can't just print out of thin air. If you do that, it's basically worthless money, which is what they're doing. And so that's the end. And then it becomes, okay, let's fire up gold. So the only survival is the gold and the silver, and it works in concert. I recommend a little bit more gold than silver. Yes, silver will go at a higher rate because it's at $27. I can go to the store now for $27, $28 an ounce and buy an ounce of silver. Where if I want an ounce of gold, it's $2,000. And yes, the silver will go from 27 to 200. So it goes up, 10 times? But my gold will go from 2,000 to 20,000. It'll go up 10 times. So that's the difference. So even if silver goes to 2,000 and the percentage is it's still only a $2,000 an ounce silver that you pay $27 for, where gold goes from 10, but it goes to 20 to 30,000 to 40,000 an ounce. And that's so, yeah, the percentage goes up in silver faster, but on one hand, you're buying it for 25 and then it turning into 2,000. On the other hand, you're buying gold at 2,000, turning it into 30, 40,000. So either way, you win. And the most important is you're out of this. You're off the Titanic. You're off the boat. This is the boat. It's hit the iceberg. It's going to zero. And what I keep saying is the point is to get off the boat and onto the gold boat. So as long as you get off the boat, then you're a winner. If you buy gold or silver, it doesn't matter. They're both going to go up. But the key is you're off the Titanic. You're off the boat before it sinks. So just imagine that Titanic, when people start realizing we're sinking, the water's up to our necks in the hallways now. I think we have a problem as the boat starts going in. Then the panic sets in. We're approaching the panic now. Right now, we're still calm. We've hit the iceberg, but people don't realize we're going to sink. So we can still go to the gold store and still buy our gold and still buy our silver. And this is what I recommend. And at worst case, if it doesn't go up fast enough and you bought all this gold and silver and you need money, right? You lose your job, you need money. You go take your gold back and you sell an ounce back for the 2,000 you bought it. It's the guy will buy it back from you in a heartbeat because there's a lot of buyers buying it. So if you do need money, it's a win-win. There's no risk. You're not going to lose on it. What else can you bet on that you can't lose? So it's just a matter of you're going to win. It's just we're waiting for that time, and that's what I tried to show you with Mark McGuire here. It's coming. Thank you with Russia and Saudi Arabia and their oil and their gold-backed currency that the BRICS are going to have, that they're working on it, that they apparently had this meeting that nobody told us about. That's why I watch Alligator and Mark McGuire and Egon, the European guys, because they report that stuff. You don't see it on American news. They don't want you to know about it. They don't want you to know you're getting fucked because the government wants to control you and blindside you. So you're going to wake up, the dollar's worthless. Oh, well, we have currency for you. Well, there's digital currency for you, or they'll try to save the day. They'll try to be the protector, and they're the fault. They're the criminals who are Madoffing us. They're the Ponzi schemers. Everything to do with Wall Street's a Ponzi scheme. Everything to do with the government's a Ponzi scheme. Never forget that. But it's the same at every government. They're all Ponzi schemes. So the only way to really live a free, happy, safe life is to buy gold and silver. You don't need the government. You sell it once in a while so you can live and take a vacation and eat well, and you don't have to work because you've got gold worth 50, 60,000 an ounce. You're pretty safe. And when the dollar goes away, here's my argument between gold and Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's priced in dollars. Gold's priced in dollars. When the dollar goes to zero, what's Bitcoin's value? Nothing. What's gold's value? Through the roof, because now gold is money. Bitcoin's not money. Gold has its own value. I'm going to buy a house or a car with it, or a vacation or whatever. The gold will be the price. It'll be the money. Bitcoin's not money. It's a cryptocurrency, big fucking deal. I can call this a whiskey currency if I want to. Doesn't mean it is. A currency must be acceptable by everybody. A lot of people, for me to get Bitcoin, I have to open up a Bitcoin account, try to figure it out, get some sort of wallet, set it up that if I do get it and I want to sell it, I got to go to my bank. I don't have to do that with gold. I just have it. Here it is. Okay, I'll go to the store, I'll cash it in, and I got money. Or I got this fiat shit. If I need to go to the grocery store, if I need to buy clothes or go on a vacation, pay my mortgage, my rent, whatever. That's what you do with the gold. You sell and get that. So what are you going to do with Bitcoin? You can buy a house with Bitcoin, and what if the guy doesn't take Bitcoin? Or if his bank closes? See, gold will be there no matter what. Bitcoin won't. I told that to my Toyota sales manager last time. I keep trying to tell him, take your profits in Bitcoin, get the fuck out and buy gold. Gold's cheap, and you can make a ton of money with your Bitcoin money into gold, because gold is 2,000 an ounce going up to 50. Bitcoin's not going anywhere. So you never got it until last time when I said, well, what's Bitcoin valued in? Dollars. And when the dollar goes to zero, what's the Bitcoin value? Gold doesn't need dollars, should not be priced in dollars. Dollars should be priced in gold, but they can't manipulate the dollars and print the dollars if it's priced in gold. That's why it's priced in dollars. But you never hear the price of dollars in dollars. What's this worth? This is worth 1 cent. But do you ever hear that or see it? No. You have to kind of go through, oh, wait, tuna fish went from $2 to $5. So the value of this has dropped. But it's hidden and it's secret, and you don't know that it's just dropped 50%. You think they've raised prices on you. They haven't. The value of the dollars dropped value on you, so they have to raise what looks like raising prices because they got to get what the purchasing power loss is, right? So if the tuna fish, if I'm selling the tuna, I'm star-kissed. I need $2.50 a can, but now I need $5 a can because the value of the dollars dropped so much that to get the same price, to get the $2.50, you've lowered the value of the dollar. I need to charge $5 to get the same $2.50. That's what it is. And so they think, oh, well, the price is the inflation. It isn't. There's only one inflation. It's printing this. You've printed this to zero. That's the inflation, period. There's no price inflation. There's no wage inflation. There's nothing. It's because you've printed this. There's no value in this anymore is the inflation. And I hate when people say, well, price inflation or wage inflation. What the fuck are they talking about? I got to raise at work. Why is that inflation? It's not inflation. We didn't print more of the jobs. There's no wage inflation. That's negotiated between me and the employer. This is what I do. I'm a senior financial analyst. I know Excel. I know economics. This is what I bring to the table. What are you going to pay me? I just got for a job at Toyota, which I would never take again, $30 an hour. You know how I answered the email? Laugh out loud. LOL. Are you out of your fucking mind? $30 an hour for a guy with a master's and 25 years experience? And I signed it the professor. I didn't sign it Howard. I just basically told him to go fuck himself. How do you come off the nerve of asking me for a $30 an hour job? I haven't been under 50 in 5 years or 6 years. 50 is my bottom, but I'm much higher. I was much higher at Harley. And my next job, if I get one, I might not get one. Because if gold goes up very soon, and I'm buying it at 2,000 and it's worth 40 or 50, I don't need to work. I'm done. I'm all done working. Because Right now, I'm closing in on 55 ounces. I got 54 and a half. So I want to go and get another quarter or half. And I'm judging between the money in my safe to I'm not working to pay the bills and the money and buying more gold that it's so cheap. I got to buy more. I can't. How do I not buy more as cheap as it is, as much as I know about it? So that's really where that's where it is. What else was I thinking about? So I'm at the gold store and the guy's talking about GM and the UAW and the strikes, how the car companies are going to go bankrupt because like the paint division striking at GM. They won't be able to make cars if they can't paint them. Well, the problem is they bought all this inventory and forget the electric cars that they can't sell. They can sell the gas powered ones that they can't make because there's no paint and they can't sell the car unpainted. So these strikes are going to cause GM, Ford, and a lot of these car companies to go bankrupt because they're not going to have money in and they can't get bailed out because the government can't print them money to bail them out. And then that's going to lead to supposedly the market crashing and the banks crashing. And I'm thinking, well, there'll be other reasons, but it won't help that the car companies are already bankrupt. Ford's losing over what, 2-3 billion a quarter because they can't sell an electric car, but they spent all the money on it. I don't understand how stupid these guys. First of all, I don't know how this guy is running Ford, who obviously is clueless. I don't know. To me, it's like the running quarterback. You don't win with the running quarterback. Why would you draft Richardson? You're not going to win with him. You can't win with Lamar. What are you thinking? You got to have a Mahomes or a Burrow. Then you go, why would you get rid of all your gas powered cars to make your electric cars? Nobody wants it. There's no market for electric cars. So as I'm talking, there's a market for this, and we know we can price it. There's a market for gold and silver because every fucking central bank in the world, but the U.S. is buying it hand over fist, especially at these low prices. So if we know there's market for something, it has a price. What's the market for electric vehicles? There isn't one. First of all, with these high interest rates, nobody's buying cars. If this was 1990, just picking a year out of the thin air, and you had 10% interest rates, you ain't selling a car anyway. Forget if it's gas or electric. It's a gas car, a Camry. Are you going to sell Camrys at 10%? No. The sales manager is saying this is like $900 a month for a car. Nobody can afford $900 a month for a car. Nobody's buying a car. It's too expensive. At least not Toyota. They might be buying Mercedes, but even Mercedes is way down. So now when I get calls for jobs at car companies, I don't even acknowledge them because I know they're all going to be out of business. It'll be like Harley. I'll last 4 months and then they got to make budget cuts and end the contract early. So, by the way, I just sent my computer back yesterday. If you watched the show, you saw me. The UPS person couldn't come in. They says, we can't come in, legal issues or whatever. So I had to take the boxes out and then she taped them up and I didn't even get a receipt. It was really weird. I didn't get a receipt for them, but I have a tracking number. And I took pictures with my camera so I knew what the fuck the tracking numbers were. And they're gone. They'll be at Harley in a couple days. But that's, so that's all. I got my last paycheck yesterday. So it was like 36 hours. So I thought it'd be a little bit more, but that would have been for 40 hours. But because it was Labor Day, I actually got fucked because my last week, instead of being a 40-hour week, was I had to work 4 nines to get to 36. So I at least got a fair last check. That's the only good thing about getting paid a couple weeks in arrears. So when the job's ending, you then have a couple more paychecks to buy you time until you get the next job, or in my case, until gold goes up. So the car companies going out will lead to bank problems. A lot of banks are about to collapse. They can't afford it. What is the timing issue? It's when these treasuries expire. And don't buy treasuries. And if they say, well, take your money out of the bank and buy treasuries, say, fuck you, I'm buying gold, because the treasuries aren't worth it. Inflation's at least 20%. Let's call it 15. And you're going to get what, 3-4% on a T-bill, which means the government says, I'm going to pay you back. And let's say it's a 5-year T-bill at 4%. The government saying, well, I'm going to pay you back in 5 years. Let's say you put 10 grand into it. I'll pay you back 10 grand plus the 4 or 5% interest in 5 years. But don't you have like a 35 trillion in debt now, going up to 50 trillion in debt? How are you going to pay me back? You can't pay anybody else back. And most of that money they owe is to foreign governments, because they're the ones buying the T-bills. So it's just like me and you buying it, right? So if China buys, $1 billion in T-bills, you owe China $1 billion. Well, China says, I don't want your money. It's worthless. China's starting to get it. Japan's starting to get it. We're not going to get paid back. And if we are, it's going to be in bullshit dollars. So they're saying, I want my money now before I can't get it. So you take out a T-bill, how's the government going to pay you back? Right? They got to pay back China and Japan and Germany and England and France, which they can't. So they print money and they go, here you go. But then the more money they print out of thin air, the less it's worth. So they got to print more and more. That's what they did in Germany in the 1923s. When the hyperinflation hit, they kept printing $1 billion a day back then. And all it did was make the money worthless. It makes it worth less and less and less. So printing money is not the answer. That's the Keynesian solution, but we already know Keynesian doesn't work. It's government-run economics. It doesn't work. It's got to be the people. We have to run the economy because we are the economy. We go to work and we go to the grocery store and we go to Lowe's and we buy a Bellagio cup. We buy a Canadian Club. We go buy gold. What we do determines what the market is. The government can't determine it because the government doesn't know what we want to buy. They can kind of guess at it, but they don't know because we don't know. I don't know. Today I might go buy gold. What if he doesn't have gold? Then I might buy silver. I might go buy a 9-iron because I want to go to the putting green and my golf clubs are in Alabama. I might want to buy gold and silver or whatever. And so, tomorrow I'm going to go get Chinese food. Well, I might get barbecue instead. The government has no idea what I want because I don't know what I want at the moment. It could be a spur of the moment. So keep that in mind. So you do not want to be in treasuries because the government won't be able to pay you back. And with the inflation at 15%, if you put 10 grand in for 5 years at 5%, the 10 grand you pull out will be worth about 5. Because they're eating the 20% inflation makes your 10 grand worth 8. So for 5 years, your 10 grand is worth 2. So you're getting 2 grand if you can get it out, or you could buy gold, wait for the BRICS and Russia to want to get paid in gold for oil and reprice gold, in which case you have zero risk. You're not going to lose on it, and it's going to go through the roof. So what would you rather do? And that's why you got to be in gold and silver. Plus you get off the boat, right? You get off the Titanic. So this is sinking. You get out of this and into gold and silver, which is about to go up. You've got to get out of this. Going into T-bills, you're still in this. Going into the stock market, you're still in this. Going into Bitcoin, you're still in this. Going into banking, anything to do with banks, you're still in this. So you've got to get out of that because that's collapsing. So you're in a house that's burning, the fire's going on, and let's go to this room. We're in the living room. Let's go to the kitchen. Yeah, that's not burning yet. Well, the house is burning. It's going to come to the kitchen soon. That's about the best analogy I can possibly come up with. The same thing as the Titanic. You got to get off the boat. You can go from one floor to the other. You got to get off the boat. You're in fucking trouble. So that's about as English as I can make it. I will rewatch McGuire to get a better, it got a little bit long, I thought, but I didn't want to stop it because I knew he had some key points, but I watched it this morning and then I went to swim and then now I'm here. So I really need to have another chance to watch it, but I've been so into the football that I've been busy studying that. It takes a long time to study it, to really understand the team and then the matchup and then what do I think it'll happen and then what's the point spread. And that really makes the bet easier or harder. Kansas City's 12.5 is a pretty hard bet against the Bears. They should win. The expected outcome is they win by 20, 30 points, but we don't know. If the line is 7 or 8, then Kansas City -2, we're going to bet big on it. And then again, the expected outcome is they win the game by 20 points. So it's still the expected outcome, but the line makes it easier or harder to bet it. And that's why I tell you, like some of these over-unders, the games, look at Oklahoma SMU, the over-under was 69. I said, forget it. I didn't know it would be 28-11. However, I did know that it's hard to get to the 70. You got to be careful there. And as it turns out, SMU doesn't have the normal offense they do, and Oklahoma's a much better defense. Now we see Colorado is a much stronger offense and no defense, except for the Nebraska game. Colorado State got 35 on them, and TCU put up a 40 on them. So they're giving up 35, 40 points to any team with a decent offense, and then they're able to score in the 40s on their side. So here comes Oregon, and, they're not going to stop Oregon from getting 50 points. Then the question is, are they going to be able to get the 40 they've been getting? Oregon's pretty good defensively at home, but we'll see. They played Texas Tech 38-31, so they gave up a lot of points to Texas Tech, so maybe their defense isn't as strong. So we will see, but we expect a high-scoring game there. Just for an example, it's a little bit, if it was 60, it would be a much stronger play than it's at 69-70, right? So the line makes you strength of the bet, right? Because the chance of you winning it if this was a 55 over under, the chances of winning Oregon, Colorado over are 99%. At 70, it goes down to, let's say, 80%. So you lose some percentage chance of you picking the winner of it winning. It'll be a high scoring game, but your risk goes up because the spread's higher. They got to score more to win, which is harder to do. That's all I'm saying. Now, I still think they'll get it. It's harder. Just like Georgia at 54, I got to go under 60. In a Georgia game, you don't see 60s very often. So at 54, it's a much better bet to go under 60 than if it was 40. And now I'm going under 46. So that's an extra 2 touchdowns I can give up now that I can't give up later. So I've been doing okay with the Iowa State keeping the games a 10-7 last week. I mean, I've been doing okay with that, but it's still, I can't watch the games. I just, game started at noon, about 3:15. I start looking at the final score because when you're playing unders, it's so stressful because, I can give up one more touchdown or I can't give up a touchdown. Like last night, I could give up a touchdown as long as they didn't get a 2-point conversion because it was 50. So if they scored, it's 49 if they kick the extra point. Again, so it just cracks me up. These coaches go for 2 like it's an automatic, like it's a kick. Anyway, so that's Mark McGuire. I'll look for Egon and Alligator. They should be on this week. So what do we know? We know the dollar's being destroyed and has no value. All these countries want out. We know BRICS is coming on with the dollar. backed by gold, the BRICS dollar. We know they want oil backed by gold, getting paid in gold. So we see it coming, right? It's no longer JP Morgan wanting gold low because they have the monopoly on printing the dollar and they don't want you buying gold. They want you buying the dollar. That makes perfect sense. He doesn't want you in it because then you won't buy the dollar because you don't realize you're being made off. This has never had since 1971, the value of this has been zero. It's always been worthless, but they don't tell you that. Oh, look, you got $100. You can go buy, whatever. And slowly, what did it do? If you watch, even watching Seinfeld shows in the 90s, the, blueberries, 29 cents, 39 cents or whatever. And then it slowly goes up and they print more and it goes up and now it's $3 to buy the blueberries. That's the dollar losing value, but they don't really, it doesn't have a value. And that's the Madoff part of it. You're buying something that has no value, but you don't know it. So then you invest it into Wall Street to try to make more money so you can go on a vacation and you can, try to retire, and then you don't realize you still are in the dollar. You're still in the burning house. God, I love that analogy. You're still in the burning house, but you've moved floors or you've moved rooms. It's not burning in the kitchen, so I'm okay. No, the house is still burning down. The dollar still has no value. It doesn't matter. There is no value in the dollar. It's a Kleenex. This and this are worth the same. They're both worthless money. So it's been a scam the whole time once it went off of gold. That's why when you read the Constitution in 1776, it said the only money is going to be gold and silver. And it's not because it was 1776, because they knew after watching what happened in Spain and watching what happened in France in the 1700s, they saw as soon as they inflated the dollars, they collapsed. So they could see that's the problem. So we can only have gold and silver and no central bank. But what did we do? We bring in a central bank and then we start printing money instead of gold and silver and start taxing people, which was never there before. There was no tax in the 1770s to 1913. There was no U.S. income tax. Only when the Federal Reserve came in and they started printing money. And then they start doing these bailout bullshits. We're going to bail out the banks. What do you mean bail them out? They fucked up. They lost. That's like the Giants lost to the Niners last night. You know what? But let's make them win. We'll say they won. It won't count. Let's replay it. I mean, that's what the bank goes under. What do? They give the bank more money and say, here, you know what? Yeah, you lost, but here's the $10 billion that you lost. Here, you get it back. What the fuck is that? You don't get it back. You can't give them the money back. So that's the problem with the banks. They run the government and it's all crooked and it's all Madoff. That's why Madoff got around. That's why he got, as long as he did, away with it, because those making the money weren't questioning it. He said, don't ask. Here's your 15% every month, and everybody getting 15% would be great. Okay, fine. I won't ask where you're getting it from. I don't care. Just keep giving me the 15%, which is what he did. So nobody cared, but he also did it with JP Morgan and the SEC. They were also on the payroll. So that's why when the SEC, they just ignored it. And then that one idiot guy from the Boston bank kept going, why isn't the SEC doing anything? Hello, McFly, is anybody home? Do you understand? He's paid them off, and they're not going to prosecute them because they're in on the Ponzi scheme, you idiot. That's my strength is I'm a critical thinker, which means when things don't look right, I try to figure out what the fuck's going on. So we know why isn't gold going up? Because it's price fixed by JP Morgan and London. They're price fixing. We get that. That idiot on Mark McGuire last week who said, oh, it's the euro dollar. And Mark's like, oh, I didn't know that is happening. I go, oh, what are you, an idiot? What do you think the COMEX is? It's London in the US, price fixing gold. Hello. Are you this stupid? You're fucking running a bank or whatever you're running, and you don't know about the banks run the governments? Oh my God. I learned that in 1995 that JP Morgan ran the central bank and printed the money and took it. I mean, that I knew since 1995. But again, I had a good class and a good master, so I learned all this shit. Most people are blind to it and don't know and get fucked over. And that's why I do this, because I don't want to see anybody getting fucked over when they shouldn't be. So your out is to get off the get out of the burning house, get off the Titanic. And there's a gold boat waiting for you, or a gold house. It can't burn, it can't sink. Just jump over to it. You have no risk. There's a huge market for gold. It's just you can't see it because it's price fixed. The real price of gold, conservatively right now, would be $20,000 an ounce. Based on Oreos being $5 a pack, or Fritos being $5 for a 10-ounce bag. With that said, gold would have at least 5 times. And once it went, all the people jumping off the boat would have also joined the frenzy, driving it up to at least $20,000 an ounce. So really, that's what is happening, and that's really the real value of gold. But oh no, it's only 19, it's going down. Who's selling gold right now? Are you kidding me? So that's really what's happening. So I think that's about it. I'm a little bit tired. So I've gone through football again. The free pick, San Diego, Minnesota. Take San Diego as the dog, and the Denver-Miami game go over. It looks like 46-47. So you go over 41. That should be halftime. So that's your free teaser pick. In college, it's the Ohio State Notre Dame over and the Georgia under. That's your college. I got 3 locks going, and I got lock teasers or teasers I have very strong confidence in, that I've studied, and I got a good point spread on. It's low, and I go, okay, this is ridiculous. The spread should be 10 points higher or lower, and so I'm going to bet, like Ohio State Notre Dame. The first line I saw was 64 for a total, and I says, yeah, I still like that over. And then it went down to 53, and I'm like, fuck, I liked it at 64. 53 is way too low. A 47 with those offenses, you got to be kidding me. So I think it'll be high scoring. I really don't need much. I'm like over 48, 49 is 47, 48. So that's 28 to 20 is 40. There's no way this game's going to be that low scoring. I don't see a 10-7 game here. I see a much higher, because Ohio State plays Michigan, and it's pretty high scoring. And USC plays Notre Dame, and it's pretty high scoring. They don't play 10-7 games. And I don't think with Hartman, and I think they'll be scoring a ton, because it's a big game. Both teams need to win it big. Notre Dame is ranked 9 is a joke. They're one of the top. It's Georgia, Notre Dame, Utah if Rising's playing, and Florida State are your top 4 teams. So Notre Dame's not down there. Utah, once Rising gets back, is a strong defense, because they're all strong defense. Hi, Don. New Amsterdam, we trust. Hello, can you help me with tonight's games? I'm not going to give you picks, but I can. What do you like? There's college. Again, www.teaserking.com. You can buy the picks. $100 buys you all the picks. So, I go through them pretty thoroughly as I'm walking through them. I don't really have much to say about them. I'm not playing any of them tonight. What is exactly your question, Don? I mean, I don't have any of these games on the site or bet myself. I don't bet just to bet, just because there's games. I don't bet them just because there's games. I look at the whole field. and then I bet them. I keep getting these calls for Medicare. It's like, and it's the same 256 number. It's like, what the fuck? I was going to take NC State. I don't come at me with first halves. I don't know. I can tell you the pick for the game or the over under. I don't play first halves. I don't play player. How many yards is the quarterback going to get? Those questions, don't ask me. I don't know. I don't think like that, and I don't really. I'm not even going to ask you why you're going to take NC State first half against Virginia. I mean, if you like NC, who do you like to win the game? I got 9.5, 46.5. Virginia's a W, and NC State's a B team. You should be able to figure it out from there. But I don't know, the first half. Who knows the first half? Just play the game. So that's what I would say. Anyway, so I think that's about it. I'll be on tomorrow about 10 o'clock because we got the big noon. So I gotta get enough to go through all the fucking spreads and look at the injuries before the noon games, or I can look at the noon games first and then get to the later ones. But there's so many. There's got to be 50, 60 games now to go through. So I can get you what the teams are, provided it's hard enough because of the high school games. So what I think the team scores more, but they played a high school team, then it's really false, and they're really not that good offensively. So then I have to do a little more work by looking at who did they play, and then realizing, oh wait, it's St. Mary's. They won 60-0. Take that off, and then I see, well, the two games they played, they scored 10 points in. I was looking at some team like that yesterday, and against the two good teams, they scored nothing, and against the weak team, they put up 60. So if you looked at the average, they look like they scored 30 a game, and they really don't. They scored 10 a game. So you got to look into the game. So it all takes time, but it's the work, and that's how you do it. So anyway, have a good day. Buy your gold and silver. It's happening very soon. www.teaserking.com. I've got 3 locks going and about a good 6-7 college teasers that I really like. And then I got about 3 good pro teasers plus 1 pro lock. And then, of course, I've got the 4 free picks, 2 college, 2 pros. All right, everybody, good luck. Go buy your gold and silver because soon you won't be able to it. The car companies I guess they're going on strike. I don't know why UAW would now, as these companies are losing their money and interest rates are high and inflation's high, why would you now go on strike? Or now the only reason is to bankrupt the company because they can't afford you. They're cutting costs. They're laying off. The last thing they can do is give the union workers money, and then they wonder why they're buying the robots because they can't strike. So it's a thing of the past, the UAW and striking and that. It's really stupid to do it now. Plus, it's driving them to more robots to do all the shit. So that's what's happening. Anyway, have a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. Again, www.teaserking.com. You can buy the weeks, $100 for all the picks, including the locks. College or pro is, I think, 75. And I just had some month buyers. So for $300, you get 4 weeks of plays, pro, college, and locks. Again, www.teaserking.com. You just go to purchase picks. If you want to email me, my email is on there, and you can feel free to email me that. All right. Have a good day, everybody. Take care. Thank you. And I hope you learned. And please ask questions if you have any. All right. Take care.